so far is definitely looking pretty solid here for Houston.
And right now, Boston, it feels like they are very much in control of the situation.
But somehow, Houston are still finding kills.
Big kill and the follow-up pulse. Striker already silent.
But there's a chase from Linkser, gets the kill, just fans the hammer. A stellar time for Houston.
Striker's gotten double his money for that one.
Jake is just wrecking everybody at this point.
Casper is the first man on the trigger.
Whoa, that was close.
So much on the line here, opportunity after opportunity for the Houston Outlaws, their chance to say that they're going to win every single stage. For Boston, a position that no one thought that they would be in here, looking to shock the world. Sorry, San Francisco, had to steal that one from them. And then you also have the Valiant, who are waiting on the sidelines, just really biting their teeth like crazy because they're so nervous. This is insane. Welcome, everyone. I'm Golden Boy, your host, and it couldn't get any better than this. Sideshow, Crumbs, and Zoe joining us once again, and we have a great game. We have another great game on our hands. Crumbs.
This game could be the one between the two best teams in the league. That is a legitimate fact based on how well they have performed, and they're actually in contention for getting there.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, just thinking about the implications here and what it means for all of these players, and even then, like, you want to get the win anyway, right? If Boston ends up losing, they still want to get the win because you need the W's in order for you to make it into the finals.
The crazy thing is the whole league is cumulative, right? It all adds up. So even if you're out of the stage 1 playoff picture, you still need these wins because you still want to get into the playoffs at the end. That's what really matters. As Semler was saying earlier, it's that Overwatch League Season 1 championship. That's what everyone's playing for.
The money matches. A lot of cash on the line. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at today's schedule, see where we are. We just came off of an incredible matchup between the NYXL and the London Spitfire. 3-2 is the score, with New York taking the W on that one. Houston Outlaws versus Boston Uprising, with playoff implications on the line. And then, because every game matters in the Overwatch League for each and every stage, the Florida Mayhem versus the Philadelphia Fusion, that is also going to be an important matchup. But we do know that the NYXL have clinched the playoffs. They will be playing in the final, awaiting the winner of seed number 3 and seed number 2. And this game right here will determine who those competitors will be. But for now, let's go ahead and welcome your first team to the stage. Put your hands together for the Houston Outlaws. Sideshow, oh, I like the hat. This team has played incredibly well versus London, and honestly, I don't think a lot of people were expecting that.
No, it was an unbelievable game, actually. Houston Outlaws completely outplayed the Spitfire strategically. And I think the setup that Outlaws has with Jake on Junkrat destroys all of these dive teams. Coolmat also had the game of his life alongside Boomer. That tank duo is looking so good. And then you have the X factor of Linkser, who just pops off all the time. This is such a solid roster.
They really are, and they're potentially the best anti-dive team in the league, or possibly ever, which basically makes Houston the counter to Boston, who more often than not have been playing dive. And Jake, arguably the best Junkrat in the league, will deal with the dive, where Linkser is going to take care of Dream Casper.
But it's not just him, it's the Coolmat and Muma combination that is so flexible when it comes to protecting that Junkrat and allowing him to perch up in those unprecedented spots that just keep throwing everybody off guard.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, Coolmat in the London Spitfire game was just God's here. And this is the Coolmat that we were expecting, because we always heard about how good he was, especially in the days of FNR GFE and Contenders Season 1.
Yeah, and I think what was so good is that he was able to get behind a lot, just solo counter-diving the enemy's backline. I feel like if he can do this against Kellex and against Neko, it'll be huge in this match.
It's going to be a great game, and I can't say that enough. I am so excited. But now let's go ahead and welcome to the stage a team with a lot on the line. It's the Boston Uprising. Boston Uprising coming into this one 6-3, but they were able to get that sweep against Philadelphia. This team, what can you tell me about them from?
I mean, this team is just blowing everybody out of the water because nobody expected them to be in this spot, legitimately having a shot to be the best team at stage 1. They're just backed by so much talent that seemingly nobody was able to even recognize beforehand, all coming together, and in a matter of just one stage, they're taking down top teams and just being, frankly, the best diving team that we have in the league.
Yeah, and this is what gets me so excited to watch these two teams play, is that Houston Outlaws are the best anti-dive team, and the Boston Uprising are the best dive team. They're complete opposites in terms of style, and I love the synchronization that Gamsu and Note have with this guy here. Striker has been unreal in these games, and he's gonna have to have a fantastic performance for them to be able to pull out the win here, I think.
And there's the eyebrow again from Dream Casper, and it's just like Houston who have the X factor in Linkster, who can win fights and win clutches. Boston has Dream Casper. He's an excellent Genji, an excellent Pharah, can also play the McCree and Widowmaker at a very high level, aggressive or defensive, depending on what the team needs.
Jonathan Sanchez, muy guapo. Looking for him.
Yes, what
the
you
style.
said.
Yes, that's right. I forget that you're Swiss and you're British, but you knew what I was saying.
I know it.
Hey.
I got you.
Oh, man. I mean, this is going to be this game is going to be ridiculous because there's so much on the line. And the playoffs, we might as well just jump into the scenarios here, Zoe, because Malik went into it a little bit before. It's a little complicated.
I mean, yes and no. Technically, it's complicated, but not really. So if
Okay.
Houston is winning this one, they're in. It doesn't matter what score they're winning, they just need to win, just in quotation marks. If Boston wins by 2 maps or more, they're in. And if Boston wins by just 1 map, the Valiant will be in, and Houston and Boston are out. So
crazy.
Valiant does not have their own fate in their own hands. This is tough.
So the Valiant are cheering for Boston, but
Hard.
not that much.
Not too much, just a little bit.
It's like just enough, you know? Like, I really want you to win, but not
Ish.
that much. Oh, dear. Okay, but here's the thing, Crumbs. You know, we have 2 of the best teams in the league right now. They have really shown. They woke up. Well, I would say Houston has kind of been, like, on that steady increase, but Boston just shot straight to the top right away.
And none of the other teams have really been talking about them lately. Before it was, oh yeah, they're underrated, they're doing really well in scrims, but it's kind of simmered down. It's all about Houston, how great Houston is now, but where does Boston really lie in this? And I think that this team is just on a straight trajectory to Mars at this point, because this is only one stage, and the highs that this team has shown are ridiculous, especially in the individual talent. Guys like Casper and Striker just put ridiculous performances consistently. They don't really have bad games.
You got to hit up my boy Elon and be like, hey, yo, Boston's trying to take a seat on your Tesla Roadster. You know what I mean? They're trying to hook up with the Cherry Red. Oh, dear. Okay, well, sideshow. Dive versus anti-dive.
Yes.
Because these are 2 different styles that these teams are going to have
Yes,
to contend.
incredibly opposite styles for these 2 teams. So you've got Houston Outlaws, best anti-dive team in the league. What that means is when other people are trying to get aggressive into them, they have Jake on the Junkrat blowing them up, and they just absorb it so well. So we've got footage here where you can see Jake so explosive on this Junkrat, deals with aggression so perfectly well. Just the entire kit of Junkrat seems designed to block it off and take out these the big ultimates on the other side. And then the tanks are able to get in and kind of counter dive. So when we see Boston engaging and getting aggressive, they leave their supports open, and that can potentially be on Coolmat to whip in behind them and be able to get the crucial picks.
I really think a big reason why their Junkrat is so successful is that they do not slack at all, especially Jake. When it comes to positioning on Junkrat, sure, we might call it like a skillless hero, but it literally, he's always looking for a new angle for the tires, a new angle to position, and it keeps your opponents guessing to where this guy is going to be at, and it makes things so much harder. When you see Junkrat slip up, they're always going for the same tires, they're just in the same place, raining down, and it becomes easy to expect. As long as the tanks are coordinating around him and they're always putting him in different locations, it's just a nightmare to deal with.
Yeah, for Jake, he's certainly going to be a star to look out for in this game. I mean, as he has been in every game. I think, you know, he goes from either being the most praised player in the league to oftentimes being the most criticized by a lot of fans. I mean, I watch every week, and I see what the chat be saying, you know? It's relentless. You people are savages. But now you have these matchups, though, and while you alluded to it before, Dream Casper and Linkster, this is a battle that I'm pretty pumped for as well.
Yeah, right. Like, these 2 guys are basically some of the stars on both these teams. The statistics looks very similar, but the discussion that I think I want to have is, who is actually better? Who would you have on the team if you had to pick one? Because I don't think there's a wrong choice. It's more like, would you rather have a sedan or a hatchback?
Or neither. You know.
Before Goldboy actually answers the car question.
Pickup truck.
I think when you look at these two guys play, Dreamcasper came out of nowhere and he's phenomenal at a lot of things. But for me, I like to rely on consistency, and I think Linkser has had such consistent performances, not just in the Overwatch League, but all throughout his history. I think you can say that it's unlikely he's going to collapse in a game. Whereas we haven't seen enough yet from Dreamcasper, I think, to say that he doesn't have the ability to crumble.
But with the situations he's been put in, the high that he has been reaching, I think already indicates that this is a level of consistency that we can expect to see for many months to come.
Yeah, well, you made a good question. You said between a sedan or a hatchback, but no matter what, it should always be a Toyota. Hey. Yes?
I set you up for that one.
I'm back, baby. Professional at the business of just bringing it to you so nicely. Anyway, guys, this is a hype matchup. Let's get some quick predictions real quickly. Sideshow?
I think throughout the games that we've seen so far, even the New York-London game, defense has been better. I think Houston, on the anti-dive with the maps that we've got, are going to be able to shut down Boston, even though they're so insanely clinical with the timings. I've got to go with Houston.
Houston.
I'm all about that raw firepower. I think Boston is already tired of being underrated, and this is the time where they actually make a run for the whole 100 grand a moolah. Boston Uprising.
I love how split you guys are. Zoe, you're the decider, or are you going to be Swiss and go neutral again?
Oh, no, not for that one. Absolutely not. No, I think the way that Houston Outlaws utilizes the key heroes at the moment in the meta, Junkrat and Tracer with Linkser and Jake, I think this is going to give them the edge. So I'm going to go all green with Houston Outlaws.
Ooh, all right, guys. Well, we're going to have a great matchup on our hands. Guys, come on, Blizzard Arena. Let's make some noise. Let's get hyped up. It's game time, baby. Let's send it over to my boys. We got Uber and Mr. X.
I can feel it, Matt. Can you? This match is going to be an absolute blockbuster. Just the kind of match we deserve here on Playoff Saturday. And these two teams are about to go hammer and tongs.
And these two teams have been some of the hottest in the league up until this point. It seems like a lot of teams, whether they peaked early on and then kind of tapered off. In the case of like New York and London, they've kind of been consistent throughout. These two teams right now are at the top of their games. Really excited. For Boston, it kind of turned things around when they lost to the Shock. They had a really bad 0-2 week. A lot of them you saw on Twitter like, hey, we're going to go back, game plan, we're going to come back even stronger. They've been dominant since then. It was Houston's week 1. They had a tough week 1. They lost that game 5 to the Philly Fusion. They lost to NYXL that week. And since then, they just went on a tear.
And bear in mind, there are 3 teams that could still be in the playoffs. One of them isn't even playing in this match.
Yeah.
It's going to kick off at Eichenwald. Matt, again, a map where we're probably going to see a lot more of that Pharah displayed. We're seeing a shift towards defensive Pharah now, a safer way of bombarding the choke, getting easy poke damage, allowing your Tracer or your McCree, if it be the case, to follow up. Blizzard Arena, are you ready for this one? That's what I like to hear.
And, they showed the graphic in the pregame, right, with Linkser and Dreamcasper. Linkser obviously going to pick up a little bit more solo kills because he's playing like a lot of Widowmaker for this team, right? Obviously, as Widowmaker, you're just going to pick up solo kills. I think the real matchup, and not even matchup, it's what do they do against Striker? Because we have seen Dreamcasper always play at a high level. Striker has been the one, though, for Boston, when they've gone up against these top Tracers on other teams, plays them even, outplays them most of the time. We have not seen him have a bad performance yet.
Give me that Symmetra Muma. Do it! You wouldn't!
Nah, we're not going to see that.
Definitely not on the attacking side on this map. Sorry, guys. Striker's over the edge as well. Man, you know what? We're getting excited at anything right now.
And the Deska, you see the Symmetra, the crowd's going nuts.
Give the people what they want!
Yep. Even if it's just in the spawn room. So, the players for the walkouts, they walk through our room, all the time, and we usually try and just joke around with the players, see their mood. Usually Boston comes in and they're always really serious, like straight-laced. Today they came in and, they were joking around with us coming in. It seems like, the nerves not really getting to this team, at least early, right? And it seems like they're really comfortable with this situation.
They've been underrated all season. It's time for them now to be given perhaps the due respect. The same can be said of Houston. They got a bunch of 4-0s. We said it didn't matter because it was against weaker teams. Well, it sure as hell matters now, Matt.
And you're going to see no Pharah on the side of the Houston Outlaws on offense. So a lot of teams against the Pharah on defense like to run a Pharah of their own. They're going to run double hit scan.
Echo's already
Linkser playing McCree, Jake playing 76. They've already taken out the enemy's end.
It's a bit of a slow roll composition from the Outlaws. Use the 76 and not go too fast, but no gets blown up. Linkser standing off the point alongside Jake just in case someone tries to flank in. The Uprising have pulled themselves off the point for the time being. Wait till there's been enough of them there, but there it is. Hit down pressure. The Korean 76. These guys are purposely trying to focus down Casper. They're trying to counter him out. Double hit scan hero.
Yeah, what they do is, I mean, you're just putting down so much consistent damage on Dreamcast where you're able to just mow him down out of the sky, especially you get the Discord orbs on him. Jake will make a switch here, go over to Tracer as we go to the second portion of the map, but a great first attack from the Outlaws. Boston will make a change as well. Dreamcast, we're gonna go right over to Genji, so this is where we're gonna see the dive really start to come from the Boston Uprising.
The Outlaws 100% knew that Casper would be switching off the Pharaoh after that one, and he'd be a little bit incensed. He'd probably know that the Outlaws are deliberately trying to shut him down, but there's still the issue of Striker, of course. Look at Lynx's positioning. Look how far back he's standing. He's waiting for a flanker. That flashbang is going to be very important. The dive's already happened. Lynx is going to be cordoned off by the bubble that was dropped down by Gamsu. Flash in. That's exactly why he sits back. Nicely done for Lynxer. No way they're going to get a res on Striker. However, Coolmat's been desuited. Casper's in dangerous territory. Lynxer puts him to sleep.
And what you look to see if you're a Boston fan is them not get scared of Linkser just popping off like this on the McCree. You have to constantly keep testing him, as a note takes him out there with the Bunny Blaster. You have to constantly keep testing him, right? Your dive is what got you here. If you're Boston, don't go away from it now.
Jake probably wants to try and pressure down some tanks here. Pulse Bomb dropped in and Striker's found Muma earlier on. But Jake able to find Striker there as well. The Tracer works out. He's going to wait again for the second round. Wants to look, this guy is so focused on striking. Oh, he's done it again! Beautiful stuff, and Dreamcast will reflects Lynx's Deadeye back towards him though, so the Boston Uprising actually have a bit of presence in this fight. But all we're seeing right now is the Jake getting it done here on the Tracer. Raucus is in a bad position there as well. He's too low to hang on. Note picks them off. Transcendence here for the Outlaws over the payload. Again, take note of Lynx's positioning. Sitting back, trying to stay safe. Can't say the same for Bunny though, as Note takes him down.
Yeah, you do have Dreamcast for holding on to this blade. You know, Raucus is kind of in turn holding on to that Transcendence. Raucus dies there, you may be like, oh,
what
why
a
didn't
shot.
you use the Trance? Because Dreamcast didn't use that blade. Gamsu's just standing there over on the side, maybe expected some kind of healing to come in, or something happened there as he's just motionless on the bridge. Just know to get back in his mech, he'll get team mech right away. Those supports come off the spawn for Boston, but no tanks alive. The payload will keep moving here for Houston.
You're looking straight at two teams with a big old score to settle, Matt. They want to brawl out, and they're more than happy to take the fight to each other. Jake, single-minded focus on shutting down Striker. No one's really been able to do that this season yet, at least not in the second half. And Linkser again is just being very mindful of where he's standing, make sure he can shut down flanking attempts. He gets a shot to Striker. He goes back into the safe haven of the bubble there, and Neko and Gamsu do work. That's the dive working out here for the Boston Uprising. The anti-dive approach of the Outlaws doesn't hold up this time.
Jake actually gets behind the Boston Uprising here, so Neko playing on the payload. Jake just kind of hanging out here. He's going to wait for the teammates to come back, and then just try and push around the corner. So you can see the view that I'm looking at right now. So you see where Jake is. If he's able to just burst down Neko, he can get the payload moving, and then everybody on Boston has to backtrack.
He'll have a Pulse Bomb too. He might just go for that one if he wants to be sure of the kill. He attempts it. It doesn't quite work out. Pulse Bomb goes a little bit wayward, but look how low Calyx was. He couldn't get away from that one. Muma's able to catch him there with the Tesla gun, and Jake now has backup. Coolmat's there, and they're going to double down on this one. Neko collapses, Pulse Bomb drop. Coolmat's going to be desuited now. Jake's looking for Striker again. He's low. Striker quickly gets a pit stop, tops up that HP, but Jake has to recall. Oh, Striker! Recalled straight back into the crosshairs, and Jake is lifting his level now to the occasion.
And one of the things we saw in the Seoul Dynasty match, with the Houston Outlaws, obviously Houston loses that, but we saw Jake play a ton of Tracer, and he looked really good in that matchup, playing Tracer, Right now for Jake, he's sitting on 16 eliminations, 7 final blows, only 1 death, so doing a lot of damage. Now he goes over to his Junkrat here for the final stage of the match.
Boston Uprising, not a team to ever go away from the dive. It's rare that we see a defensive dive used in this position. Dragonblading for Dream Casper here. He's going to go for it, taking a lot of damage. There's a trend set up there, and Linkser just puts it to bed. It's 1 bullet. Take 2 in the morning and call me later. And now it's Neko to go down, and the Outlaws are building up some... Are you kidding me, Linkser? You're not even trying to hit him, mate. Somehow finds that kill on Striker, and that guy is just a second ahead.
And Boston has both of their support ults, but you see the spawn doors being blocked here. Muma using the Primal Rage on the right side, just knocking players back. We'll see if Boston can even get back to the payload.
Self-destruct, this will buy a couple seconds for the Boston Uprising, maybe more of a stave execution than anything else. Note's getting chucked down, barrier dropped by Gamsu here. Raucus has found Casper, he's down at the start of the fight. Boston need their Genji in the mix. And he's returned. Lynx is taken down. Gamsu's on towards Raucous here, and it's only Moomer really on the payload. Banny can't do too much but plug away with the blaster. And the Boston Uprising wake up the dive. Gets him in gear. And now the Outlaws have to regroup.
Yeah, Boston had to use both of their big support ults during this fight. No ult switch to Orisa, then back to D.Va just to get a mech back. So he gets demech during that fight. He'll give up the ult percentage to get a new mech. This Cool Matt will have a self-destruct. Muma switches over to Orisa here, so gives Linkser that shield to hide behind.
2 minutes and 2 on the clock here. Very good time for the Outlaws. Boston Uprising, a Pulse Bomb, and a potential Primal Rage. Little else to work with.
They're going to get a blade here as well, potentially before the support ults come through.
It's a 2-for-1 trade so far. Cool man taken down by Neko after the self-destruct comes in, and Jake looking for a big tie here, but he doesn't get it. No takes it out on the way through, but the Outlaws still have a bit of momentum to press forward with. Calyx trying to keep Gamsu alive, he gets blown up. Jake, the burst damage is too much on the Junkrat. Striker doesn't quite land on placement of the Pulse Bomb, and that could have been it, the key to hanging on. But Dreamcast was back, he's found himself too. Linkser was the first one to go down. The Swift Strike, just one more slash is all he needed, but it might not be enough. He gets flashed up from behind, stunned up indeed. Moomer up on the payload here, and Calyx is going to get pulled in with Dreamcast, but both are fairly low on HP. But Casper again finds Linkser with a headshot from the Shuriken.
And you're going to have Neko coming off a spawn here for the Boston Uprising. You're going to get here's Zenyatta in the mix, the Discord and the Harmony to get some healing of these players on the point. So it looks like Boston will hold on. They'll get a D-Mech here on the Cool Matt. Linkser with a Deadeye. And Raucous with the Transcendence you'll have for this next fight. Only less than a minute to go. Dreamcast, we're going to have another Blade Mitch here, and you're going to have both support ults. So we've talked about throughout the year how dominant that Dragon Blade plus Transcendence combo is. You're going to have it here for Boston. It's really on Raucous here. Needs to get good value out of his Transcendence.
Casper had an incredible fight, killing Jake, reflecting his concussive mind. But now, last chance saloon for the Houston Outlaws here. We know these gunslingers, we know what they can do when their back is to the wall. Deadeye for Linkser, we'd like to open up an element of night. There'll be a notch, he's being jumped on. Again, Dreamcast with the Dragon Blade, looking for more, he's found Linkser and Bunny. That's huge! No mercy available here for the Houston Outlaws. Is there more? Raucous now trying to fend off Casper, he inexorably pressuring on towards his Zenyatta. Now it's a 2v1. Dreamcast has no reflect left, he falls. But where are the rest of the Outlaws right now? They're still coming back in. Linkser's trying to get there, and they brought Dreamcast back for a second bite of the apple, but there's only 10 seconds left.
And Node's going to have a self-destruct here to isolate some players, and Neko holds on to his Transcendence. It's a Riptire that comes in from Jake.
Jake trying to make it like 4th until they up in here. He's looking, he's found Calyx. Oh, that's huge! Calyx is out of the picture now. He didn't have any ultimate to work with, but they still needed the Mercy in there. Resurrect would have been good. Self-destruct thrown out here, and that could be a big one. Oh, it catches Bunny! Both Mercies are down, the Mover's looking pretty low. Cool Matt, last man left on the payload, trying to dance around, and now Jake steps up. It's a one-man versus the world, and the Boston Uprising put the foot down. This is our house, our throne. And they hold just outside the end of the map. And that dive defense, it really pressured.
And it didn't seem like they really got comfortable until that final stage. It seemed a little bit shaky, right, with how fast Houston took point A. They kind of mosey all the way on through the second stage of the map. It's really that last final portion where we do see some teams put some good holds up, where Boston comes through with their dive. And I think now, well, Bonnie was very close to a Valkyrie there towards the end. We can talk a little bit about that. He's about 80%, and you're behind Muma's shield. He was playing Orisa. Maybe if he's able to stay alive a little bit longer, you get both those tanks a lot of healing value out of both those players alive at the time. Maybe you get a Valkyrie there at the end.
It's a tough situation for Barney because he was already segmented from his team, by the use of that self-destruct. Note had already forced him to stay back, and then getting caught out by the very ultimate that he, dispositioned himself to avoid. It's got to hurt. Dreamcast, by the way, he had an incredible last fight. 4 kills. First picks off Linkser with just like a headshot shuriken from range while he's being pressured down by a Primal Rage. Then reflects a concussive mine back into Jake. He gets 2 other kills, by the way. All notable kills.
And it doesn't reflect in the stats, but Gamsu is a big reason why they're able to pick up these initial kills, right? He's diving in, he's putting some damage down. The big thing is he's able to get out with his life. Whether it's him and Note just kind of changing back and forth with their players on the payload. Gamsu does a really nice job just initiating and then allowing Striker and Dreamcaster to pick up these kills.
You can see the skew of eliminations or kills in the favor of Houston Outlaws. DPS duo. Boston Uprising have a lot of involvement from Gamsu and Note as well. You see Gamsu really, these dives are working very well. Bubble placement's been excellent. Houston Outlaws now a chance to defend. Boston Uprising are in their element here, Matt. They're a dive team. They want to be aggressive, they want to attack. Well, let's see if they can get the map done.
Yeah, you're not going to see the double hit scan come out from the Outlaws on defense. Jake will play Pharah, so he'll just kind of be dancing around that center pole. It'll be a Linkser to battle Striker now in that Tracer v Tracer battle.
Boston Uprising have taken about 300 HP and poke damage already. Jake's found Dream Casper. Big start. Gamsu just going to get shredded through by Coolman. The Outlaws are adamant. Refuse to let the Uprising through that first choke, and Jake's also found Neko. Okay, Boston, let's see how you deal with a bit of the pressure you're so good at applying.
And when Jake gets that first kill on a Dream Casper, he goes like over the building and to basically the Boston spawn point. He's just firing rockets down at Neko from behind. And he's able to just have the rest of his team come through that front side of the choke under the underpass and help him clean up some of those kills.
Dream Casper already 0-1 on this half in that Pharah battle. He's actually trying to go for movement. So notice that his focus isn't so much towards Jake, but into setting kills up for Striker to finish on that Tracer. Now he needs to deal with Jake. One direct hit take. Dream Casper's normally the nutty man when it comes to the Pharah. These two more than happy to take each other on, but again, Dream Casper's always ready to just revert to getting damage down on the low ground. And Gamsu's in, Mover's looking pretty low. This could be dangerous. Now Casper wants to deal with Jake. Raucous Pulse Bomb. He's not coming back from that one, man. And now the Cool Man. Gonna have to get the heck out of dodge. Half HP on Banny. He's forced to back away. Not much protection available to him, and Note has been doing some serious work. Finds both Banny and Jake, and Striker can go and look for some extra kills. The Uprising look like they're in rhythm now.
So Dream Casper puts down a ton of damage on the Muma, but it's Coolmat who gets really low. And it's when Coolmat gets low, Note and Striker dive right in on top of him. They're actually able to get Muma in that equation, and then Coolmat falls. You have Raucous get hit with the Pulse Bomb. It'll be a self-destructing explosion up here by Coolmat. Very nice play.
And that's the green light now for the rest of the dive in from the Houston Outlaws. They can get a lot more for this fight. And Coolman adds a third.
Yeah, so the payload's not going to move, so the gate doesn't open yet. So we saw this a lot, back in Contenders, where a lot of teams would push all the way through. Now it's going to force Boston to potentially use some ultimates just to get the payload past the gate.
Outlaws, the taxmen right now. Gonna make it costly. That's a big direct hit from Jake. Good start. Crowd's behind him. But also, so is a Winston, and Casper rains down on top of him. Moomin now realizes he needs to get the heck out. In fact, there have been ultimates committed to this fight, but a Striker to find Coolman with a Pulse Bomb. Gamsu finds himself 2. And the Boston Uprising still have decent ult economy to work with, but that's that first checkpoint down.
I wonder if they realize they haven't dealt with Muma, as Muma still alive, back by the Boston Uprising spawn. So we'll see if he can come back, make a big play, just like how Jake did when he was behind the Boston Uprising on their offensive.
Muma has 33% less deaths than Gamsu. Very good at staying alive, but Banny perhaps not able to channel that same luck in this case. And now Dream Casper knows he can apply a bit more of that pressure. Doesn't have to worry about the Winston. No mercy to heal up Jake. He switched over to the Tracer himself.
Yeah, this does look good for Boston, right? A lot of the kills are going in their favor, but you see where the payload is moving. It's just a lot of time that's been burnt here by the Houston Outlaws, as now the Boston Uprising finally get the payload under this underpass. But Houston may have 2 more fights here.
Already moving in Discord immediately. He's going to get burst out if he's not careful. Micro Rockets from Note, but he actually lost track of where Mover even was. Jake and Striker have both been felled, so both Tracers are out of the picture. But the Outlaws have brought theirs back, as have the Uprisings. So we're back to now a 66 situation. Keep tracking home, ladies and gentlemen. Note's on the payload. Coolman can't get the resuit. That's really going to hurt them now, because Note still is a big presence. He has self-destruct to get back in the mech, and Lynx is out of position. He's on his own. Raucous couldn't save him with a Transcendence. Now he's just forced to use it on the payload to stall out as long as he can. Banny stays outside of that one, and now he just has to try and step on it for a little while. And Casper, merciless, of course, as were the Outlaws after that rocket shot.
Houston uses both of their support ults during that fight. Kellex does fall. They'll have his Valkyrie, though, in this next fight, as Houston will definitely try and challenge the payload yet again.
That Transcendence from Raucous, unfortunate.
A little bit late.
No one was really able to benefit, especially as Lynx got knocked away. And now the Uprising are going to keep that pressure on as they do. Pulse Bomb dropped in, special delivery, doesn't connect. Lynx is able to avoid that one, but he's so low, he's up on the payload. He actually gets a big hit on Striker, but he's not able to complete the kill. Neko's been taken down by Jake, but he's been brought back immediately. Of course, that Valkyrie is in play. It's so important here. Jake, he's low. We had a Discord orb on him. It's an easy target. Striker going for the low-hanging fruit, but again, it's enough to keep the Boston Uprising moving.
And just a little moves by Striker to dodge the flashbang that comes in for Linkser, as the Boston Uprising will take the second checkpoint here. Jake will switch over to Junkrat. Neko will take out Raucous at the beginning of this fight. So just the battle of this ends, Mitch. Just taking a look at some of the numbers right now. Raucous, 11 eliminations, 13 deaths, 5 final blows. Neko on the other side, 24 eliminations, 12 final blows. Double the final blows, more than double the elims. Neko's putting up a hell of a game.
4 less deaths as well. stepping up when his team needs, when the Boston Uprising are looking so fluid right now. Striker might have a plan. It's a Deadeye from Linkser. It's going to force everyone out of position. He knows there's a Deadeye present. Oh, how has he done it? Linkser's found himself 2 kills while Striker tries to avoid him. That's the fight already done.
Yeah, that's going to... Well, that's a great fight for Houston as well, because now you can actually get this position with Muma playing Orisa and Jake playing Junkrat that you exactly want. Dreamcasper uses the rocket barrage there to take out Bonnie, because you imagine he probably will change here, you know, not going to run the far towards this later portion of the map. Maybe we see him switch, he will go over to Genji. So here's where we see the Deadeye come through, as Linkser's able to connect with both. So that fight allows Houston to get this advantageous position, but Neko with another first kill.
Linkser was just peeking through the shield on the front side. Perhaps he didn't realize that some of his character model would clip through.
On Jake with the mine right on the Striker, that'll make Boston have to wait a little bit longer to get their Tracer back in the fight. That'll also allow the res to come through for Houston.
Self-destruct, this is going to force Houston away. They're trying to set up in a defensive setup. How deep the Junkrat is here. Jake obviously switching onto that one. He's taken down by Gamsu and Neko. Cool, man, you better respect this man. He's up behind you. A lot of damage in towards that mech here. Possible by Striker does find Muma now as well. And you can see the Raucus is being threatened in the backline. Gamsu's gotten himself into the cookie jar. This could be nasty. It forces the Transcendence out here from Raucus. He had no other choice but to use it now or lose the game. Striker hunts now after that Transcendence fade. There's a lot of vulnerable targets, and Muma's out there on his own. It's not looking good for him. Casper finds him to finish him off. Banny's down as well. The Uprising are back on the move with a minute 25.
They're going to need a massive Riptire here out of Jake, because you don't have either of your support ults. And on the side for the Boston Uprising, you're going to have your Valkyrie and you're going to have Dragon Blade here. Jake needs to get value with this.
Okay, the Boston Uprising have pulled off the payload completely. They're completely disengaged. So Jake's Riptire now is more of a deterrent than anything else, but they found Neko. It's time bought, time in the bank for the Outlaws, and they need to keep doing that. The Uprising were very prepared to disengage. It was smart. But eventually they're going to have to spring back into this fight. They can't resurrect Neko.
But this next fight, though, I mean, you give that fight up, you come back with Valkyrie, Dragon Blade, and a Pulse Bomb. But the way Striker's been landing these Pulse Bombs and the value that Dreamcasper gets out of these blades, it's a pretty good trade for the Boston Uprising.
One real fight and maybe one half fight is all that the Boston Uprising have available. I think they're just going to set up and wait until their ducks are in a row. Striker. Oh no! Jake's found Striker! That's huge now. Dreamcasper has to fix this one up, but Linkser's going to meet him there. Boston Uprising getting completely derailed, and Kulmat gets himself too. Oh, he's home! Gamsu and Neko have fallen. Muma there, just trying to hang behind the shield, and it's just note, 20 seconds left. If they're quick, Boston can get out. If they stagger Note here, this could be absolutely devastating.
Could not have gone worse for the Boston Uprising there. Houston able to battle through all of the ultimates that Boston had. They may be able to hold on.
That was the best chance they had, and now it's going to be a little bit difficult. Note gets halted straight into a concussive mine. Time is up. Now we're in overtime. Is Gamsu dropping onto the payload? Just gets blown up instantly. Dreamcasper not even really bothering to go over towards that one. It's 3 for the Linkser man. And what a way to put a period on this map. Houston Outlaws 1, Boston 0.
A big self-destruct out of Kulmat. Boston had everything they wanted there towards the end. They had Valkyrie, they had Dragon Blade, you had a Pulse Bomb, no support ult at that moment for the Houston Outlaws. And they're able to hold on to win map 1.
Oh, and there it is, map 2 on the way. But in the meantime, we're going to head down to Malik on the stage to remind you of all what's at stake here today.
All right, give it up for the Houston Outlaws for taking their first map. And now the Boston Uprising, they have to win out if they want to make it to our stage playoffs. Now, you guys have been hearing us talk a lot about the stage playoffs and the implications and whatnot. So, as a refresher, let's take a closer look at our stage playoff format.
As the Overwatch League enters the final week of Stage 1, it's time to get you set up for the stage playoffs. First, here's how it all works. The Overwatch regular season is broken into 4 5-week stages. At the conclusion of each individual stage, there is a stage playoff, pitting the top 3 teams in the standings against each other. For teams with the same record, the tiebreakers are cumulative map differential, followed by head-to-head map differential, then head-to-head record. Following match play on the last Saturday of each stage, the 2nd and 3rd place finishers will face off for a chance to face the #1 team later that night for the crown of Stage 1 champion. So what's at stake other than the bragging rights? Try $100,000 to the winning team and $25,000 to the runner-up. It's going to be an exciting finish to the first stage of the Overwatch League.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. Omened by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. And by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League.
I'm Linkser, I play DPS for Houston Outlaws.
Can't be disappointed with Linkser's performance. The man just seems to stand out on every front. 6 shots from Linkser.
And Linkser finds Carpe as well. Now this is just getting gross.
The reason why I chose DPS because I enjoy playing aggressively. I like outplaying my opponents, and I think DPS is one of the roles you can do that the most.
Linkser couldn't have better sightlines if he was mind controlling these supports. They seem to go wherever he wants them to.
I think the goal for Outlaws is to be considered a threat. You can't be like playing us down or underestimating us. You have to be prepared.
Linkser pops off right there.
Both supports dead.
Houston seems like a team that's on the rise.
The fans out there, just keep looking out for me. I'll be improving throughout the season, and I'm gonna be one of the best.
Well, Matt, the first time I met Linkser was just over 2 years ago now, at the first ever European Overwatch LAN. In fact, one of the first Overwatch LANs ever. And it's so funny, this guy is so polite and gentle and kind in real life, but in-game, he's a monster.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he's a savage, man. I mean, he's just one of the best DPS players we have in the Overwatch League. I think that you look at his performance, in this arena when he was playing with Gigante, right? They end up winning the Contenders, European finals, and I feel like he just kind of leveled up after that performance. He's just been on another level. No subs for either team. Coming into map number 2, it'll be the Temple of Anubis.
Neither team, Matt, willing to give an inch. That's what this game has been about. It's been a game of inches, to be fair, Matt.
We were looking at the stats, and we're like, where does the difference happen in this game? And literally both teams, everybody in their respective roles, whether it's supports, DPS, tanks, all their stats are basically similar. Like, it's only a 3-kill difference in the entire game between teams. It's kind of rare to see, in some of the Overwatch matches we've seen throughout Stage 1.
Now, if Boston give the Outlaws another map, they don't make playoffs either way.
Yes.
Win or lose. This is a must-win map.
Boston needs to win out from here. They need to sweep the next 3 maps to make the playoffs. A Game 5 would enter some scenarios where the Valiant could get in, but Houston needs any win to get in. Any form of a Houston Outlaws win, they will be in the playoff.
Two teams, we weren't sure about what we expected from them at the start of the season, Matt, especially the Boston Uprising. I've been over the story before, we're past it. Okay, I've lost enough bets on the course of the season, and the Outlaws now are looking imperious.
The crowd chanting for Symmetra.
We demand Symmetra!
Maybe we'll see it one day.
I just don't want to get your hopes up. I actually do want to get your hopes up.
In a match like this, you will not see Symmetra.
And now, Matt, I'm sure there's a good reason for that.
She's.
You don't like Symmetra.
Well, Symmetra's not very effective on attack.
Okay.
I know you don't, especially on Temple of Anubis. Maybe a payload, you can make some use of those turrets. Not really here, as Houston will be on offense first. Mumo will go back to the Symmetra here. Quick second, now go over to Winston.
Mumo is a man of the people, there's no doubt about it. Okay, let's get serious now, let's get dialed in. Widow maker here for Linkson. No Widow on the side of the Boston Uprising, so Casper will need to address this threat. Widow is going to force Boston to make a response.
But this is a different look that a lot of teams don't do on defense.
It's a dive.
It's going to be the dive that comes in for the Boston Uprising. Jake actually makes his way all the way to the point, but has to backtrack to try and help some of his teammates.
I have no idea how Linkson found that shot. That's insane. However, he needs a couple more teammates here to pressure that point, and it looks like they are coming forward. The Resurrects are far easier for the Outlaws to get. That's the kind of weakness, the Achilles heel of Boston on this defense, right? They want to dive defense, but getting Resurrects on those players who are so deep is so hard.
And Muma's just going to have this Harmony Orb just standing on the point, just trying to force some players back, and they get a free tick, and they get Gamsu as well.
Boston have to collect themselves now. They're under an unprecedented amount of pressure, and they've got to spring back, but the Outlaws just seem to be having their way with the mat. They go wherever they please, and Neko gets wrecked by Raucus up in that high ground. I'm making another one, Raucus. Why not? That's very fast. Very fast. 7 minutes almost for the Outlaws on the clock here.
And Houston trying to kill Kellex here. They do have Node extremely weak, trying to get him before he gets a mech back, but he does get a new Diva mech. But they will have the advantage. They do have Transcendence. They're going to have Valkyrie here. Only one support for the Boston Uprising. See if Jake can make a difference with the Pulse Bomb. It'll be Valkyrie used by Bonnie. He falls right away. Kellex is using his Valkyrie as well.
And that's got to be a red light for the Outlaws. They're pulling the plug on this expedition. And they're going to try and get Raucus out alive, but they're not able to. Striker, relentless, chasing down those foes. And having Kellex without that Valkyrie and Bunny will set a more even playing field. I'm surprised we saw Kellex go for that one, because Barney got blown up when he tried to use his.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a Valkyrie that came out of Kellex, and they were trying to get a little bit aggressive, maybe just kind of turn the tides. No, not let Houston just kind of walk in through the chokes. Jake will go off of Tracer, he'll play Junkrat here. Linkster will play Genji for the Outlaws.
I don't like Boston's response to this. I don't know if the Junkrat against Jake being an offensive Junkrat is going to be the play, because it's really just going to be Note that can actually access him. Casper finds Linkster.
Seems like the Junkrat has been an issue with whether it's Jake playing on the Boston side.
He's done with this. Yeah.
So it was either Jake is probably going to have to switch some of the dive heroes. Linkster will go Reaper, so Jake will play Pharah here. So obviously no hit scan on the side of the Boston Uprising. Pharah can put a ton of damage down on these chokes, and then you can just walk Linkster on Reaper right in, finish him off.
It's the same as a Pharah Tracer. Lynx is going to be there to complete the kills that Jake sets up. He's going to get a lot of incremental chunk damage down, ideally, without getting blown up by Neko, of course, and it's going to be Linkster getting there to finish it off. These tanks are now in big danger from the Boston Uprising. They've got a lot of ultimates to work with, but they lost Striker early on. Rauc's now going to go for the Transcendence, and Gamsu goes down! Jake had him separated from the rest of his team, and now he's been dealt with. Pharah with the 44%. Linkster being brought back to life after getting taken down on the point.
And Kellex uses Valkyrie. He's able to finally get over by Gamsu. Dreamcasper will use his Riptire. Neko also pops his Transcendence during this fight, as Boston will be able to hold on both support ults on both teams use. I was a little bit worried from the Boston side because you use your Valkyrie, and Gamsu and Striker died so far away that Kelix wasn't able to go res them right away, right? There's a good chance he could potentially die as the flood of Houston starts to come in towards the point. He's able to dodge a lot of the players, hiding towards that left-hand side. Then come on out. Dreamcasper will now go off of Junkrat and we'll play McCree. I just love, the battle between like Jake and Dreamcasper in terms of like, okay, I'm gonna bring out Farah. It's like, let's see how deep your hero pool is. How do you counter it? Yeah.
There's respect from these two because they're actually switching up their roles to try and answer the threat one another is posing. This is good Overwatch. This is that cerebral Overwatch that we don't always get to see. Striker's got a pulse bomb, then we'd be looking for something big, but Jake just drops in front of him and wards him up. Oh, that's not good. Linkser gets caught out. Combined pressure of Striker and Casper too much for the Reaper to bear, and it will be another rout of the Outlaws.
The Outlaws, after taking the first point, relatively uncontested. It was a really good patient push. And they have not been able to kind of crack the code of the Boston Uprising to get in towards point B. They've tried, whether it's Junkrat Genji, they've tried Tracer, Widow for a little bit. Now they're going with Reaper and Farah. We're going to have all of the support ults up yet again. So here's where Houston can put together another really strong push with both of their support ults.
This next fight's going to be insane. Double support ultimates for both sides here. There's even a barrage that Jake's going to keep a Deadeye for Dreamcasper. Hard to use as McCree defensively because you don't have a lot of room to work with normally. The Raucous get picked off early. That should end the push once again. The Outlaws are just trying to get in position, but this constant aggression, right, this champing at the bit we're seeing from the Boston Uprising is actually denying Houston's ability to get 6 players in position on the point. They're always bleeding individuals as they try and get into position.
Yeah, and you see Link sort of switch off of Reaper and go over to Genji, so some more mobility because when they're trying to walk Reaper in towards the point, I mean, you have Muma with his Winston bubble, Cool Matt with Defense Matrix, but if Dreamcasper spots him, he's just able to just poke shots from a distance, just put a ton of damage down, and then Gamsu and Striker just come and finish those kills up. So now you get Genji in the mix. Obviously more mobile, he's able to just dart right in with a little bit of a dive from Houston.
Great discipline from Linkser. He had a Death Blossom, but he didn't want to go for it. Looks like Jake has blown himself up. I'd say that would be Note reflecting a lot of those rockets by getting very close in the D.Va mech. Good response from the Uprising. I tell you what, Matt, if there's one thing they're good at doing, it's getting aggressive. Cormat might be out of Defense Matrix here. He's trying to deal with Striker. And we now know the Outlaws are also quested on towards this right-hand side. Oh, there it is, Raucous. Sends a salvo over. And Striker getting too big for his boots is now put in the ground.
And Gamsu used Primal Rage in the last fight. They're trying to force out one of the support ults from the Houston Outlaws.
They want to go now.
Houston will use their Valkyrie to try and engage her. You bring Linkser and Jake back up into the fight. Here's the Deadeye. Just Dreamcasper trying to zone some players out.
Gamsu has to get rezzed up like that one. That's a big self-destruct from Coolman. Linkser's biding his time. A couple more shurikens that'll be ready for the Dragon Blade. Who's his target going to be, though? That's the question. He now is going to go straight in for the big monkey man, it seems. Linkser trying to cut strips off of Gamsu. He's going to pursue him up and towards the top of the point. Oh, forced back, though. Barney desperately trying to heal him, and Gamsu just took all that damage. He really is living up to the tank role here, and the Outlaws are trying to find some advantage somewhere. Linkser might have found it. No! He gets shut down by Gamsu, who had an incredible team fight. That Winston play was sublime.
And they use the Dragon Blade Houston when Neko still has the Transcendence. Neko pops the Transcendence. It's a really neat play by Gamsu because he's actually under by the Mega Health Pack. Jumps up on top because he needs to get in line of sight to get that healing from Neko. Some really nice movement from Gamsu on Winston here today as he's earned himself another Primal Rage. Kelix has built up another Valkyrie here as well. You see Bonnie only at 50%. Houston just has this Pulse Bomb to work with here with under a minute to go.
60 seconds, that's it. Jake tries for the Pulse Bomb. Does not connect it, but the rest of the Outlaws know they need to go anyway. Gamsu in the Primal Rage here, a lot more HP for him to work with. Oh no! Bunny, nothing but a gross-looking mural on the roof of Anubis, and he's found yet another one. Gamsu now starting to really wake up. Lix is not going to get away either. What a shocking reception for the Genji from the Outlaws. And they've got one push, and it might not even be a full one now. The Uprising are to jump on them before they can get in position once again. This aggression is working out so well.
And Dreamcasper could use the Riptire here from a distance, maybe kill 1 or 2 players here from Houston, just end their push before it even begins.
It is time for the Outlaws to face the music. The tumbleweed rolls across. And it is, of course, noontime in Striker. We'll be looking for Raucus early on. Neko's down. They've lost this in now to Striker. Needs to try and equalize this one, but Neko is brought back into the fight. Raucus rezzed up. He went down to Note. Casper, Riptire over the top. He's found Links, and that might be the one. No, he's rezzed up again. Vanny to bring him back into the fight, but Striker has a pulse bomb. He's looking to put it to real good use. Telex is sticking with Striker the whole time, by the way. Presence of mind to keep him healed. Pulse bomb. No connection from Striker. Raucus remains alive for the time being. Transcendence in over the point, though. Could be a turner. Self-destruct here from Note. Gonna buy some time. Buy some space. Vanny taken down by Gamsu. This could be the opening they're looking for. Coolmat knocked away. Goes for the self-destruct himself. Gets resuited. Striker's off towards the side, harassing here. Raucus is very low on HP. Links are not looking too much better either. Coolmat trying to throw himself onto the point, but no. It's going to be a D-suit. Moomer's got to get there. He doesn't have enough time. And Boston.
I love it.
Hold. Damn, that was tough, though.
Just the battle between, just the mind games between Jake and Dreamcast, just switching the heroes, changing the comps over and over and over again. The switch there at the end from Dreamcast on a Junkrat. He gets his Riptire, makes a play with it. I just love that. Like, that's what everybody loves about Overwatch, right? Just the constant just swapping of heroes in and out, you know, the strategy just changing on the fly, especially with two great teams. It's interesting, you know, people have gotten on Boston through this season for not really adapting, you know, just kind of playing the dive all throughout.
Hashtag they only play one comp.
Yeah, and yeah, you've seen today, I mean, Dreamcast, where it's just changing up one guy, but he's able to do so much on so many different heroes.
And even outside of the team composition, what we're noticing that Boston is very good at is identifying some, you know, very small intervals of time where Houston Outlaws are vulnerable.
Yes.
You need to filter through one of three apertures to get inside that second point, and in doing so, sometimes people get left behind. Sometimes players are unprotected. If you have a player who's so good at picking off stragglers as Striker is, it's very hard for Houston to actually get into a position to create a staging ground for their dive when they're constantly losing players one by one who are just not able to get in position with the rest of the team. You're constantly peeling for your team while you're trying to shuttle them into position. It must be frustrating, especially for Coolmat as well, who's seeing his teammates just getting picked away from him.
You know, Boston is extremely effective as well. That just, you know, they play dive, right, which is a very aggressive style of play, very, you know, offensive, whether you're on defense or attack. But they're very good at isolating single members. Like, they just try and find somebody that's on their own, whether it be a support or, you know, Coolmat playing Diva or one of the DPS. And as soon as they realize that player is alone and they have no escapability, they jump right away. The timing's always there.
Houston Outlaws now on the defense. Grim-faced as they're going to have to keep Boston Uprising from finishing the map, and it's no mean feat against a team who's so good at selecting a target and dispatching them accordingly. Taking their time.
Houston will play with Orisa and Diva as their tanks. Jake will play Junkrat. The interesting thing is you do not have Widowmaker. Usually this is the comp where you see Linkser play Widowmaker. He's going to opt to play Soldier 76. So not going to be able to escape to the high ground as easily as a Widowmaker would. Not going to have that one-shot potential as well.
The Outlaws really trying to play a bit more of a deathball style right now, but Jake has been plucked from their midst, and Coolmat not in a great position here to help the rest of his team. That might be the opening for Dreamcasper, but he's low. Kellex finally gets to him. Oh! Gives it the healing. Linkser just has his damage returned back towards him, but Raucus is there to respond. Moomin's got the D-suit on Note. It's gonna be a tough one for Bannon to get away. Gamsu ain't gonna let it happen. This guy has the pursuit of a true predator, and Moomin's gonna fall now as well. Boston look like they're making good inroads, and Jake has no idea what's happening. Gamsu cutting a swap here through the Outlaws, and that'll be Boston's first point.
It's tremendous how Gamsu is able to stay alive through all of this. You know, both of the supports for Boston, you know, one's trying to heal out Node, who ends up getting DMAC, to the other is trying to heal a DPS, and Gamsu's just taking players out, just somehow just staying alive, using that Winston bubble perfectly. We talked about how fast Houston's offensive attack is. Boston's may have been even faster.
Boston looking for the equalizer here. All they need is 33% of this first point. Second point, should I say. Oh, Raucus was looking for that one. Striker, come on, mate. You should know better. And for some reason, Casper, yeah, just a bit of damage there as well. He'd like to charge up his Dragonblade for the next fight. So a little bit of poke we'll see from the Boston Uprising while they await the return of Striker.
Jake will have the Riptire if they want to, you know, buy themselves some time to potentially get a Valkyrie here, because right now Boston will come in with Valkyrie. Neko is going to be able to transcend it extremely fast. And Dreamcasper has the Dragonblade.
Burst a bit of poke here. That's a lot of damage on towards Moomer. No follow-up available. Moomer's able to get to the lower level and pick up the mega health pack, so he's still fairly topped up and looking good. Jake goes down. That's going to force a resurrect, and in fact, it's probably... Oh, no! No! Houston Outlaws, what have you done? They leave the point. Boston sneaks in there and takes the map from out from under them.
So Neko kills Jake on that back right-hand side if you're looking at the point, and both supports are there for Houston. What happens is they get the res, Gamsu jumps in with Primal Rage, knocks them all back towards the spawn, and nobody else gets back onto the point for Houston as Boston steals Anubis.
How do you recover from that? It was such a hard-fought battle. The Houston Outlaws did everything they could to try and capture this map out, and then it just gets slipped away. It's like the magic trick where you pull out the rug. Unfortunately, they went toppling with it. Map 3 going to be after the halftime break. What a game so far.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. And by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.
Well, don't say we didn't warn you. I mean, honestly, we told them. We said it was going to be a crazy game. Okay? You people on the internet, you told me, no, Golden Boy, you're lying. It's not going to be a crazy game. Then I said, no, just watch the run back. And look at this, craziness. I can't contain myself. My clothing was just shredding from my body, which is how amazing this game was. And I'm sorry for everyone in there who had to witness that.
Yeah, I was right here.
You were right here, but then again, that's exactly where you want to be. Isn't that right? Isn't that right?
They're in distance where you see too much.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, welcome back to the desk. And we have just so much to talk about here because Houston Outlaws, Boston Uprising, off to a great start.
Yeah, and I think what you can see in these clips as well is that both teams were playing the style we expected them to. Here, when you get to point C, Jake's up back on that Junkrat, being able to execute the pushes, get a huge amount of value out of the anti-dive, but Boston looked so great as well, being able to pick it apart. I think they had a better job than London did in terms of breaking the Houston defense.
I think they did as well, but their own defense is really what was starting to confuse me at first, especially in the first points of both Anubis and Eichenwald. So this team looks like they might be very relaxed, but they're still taking their time to warm up and get to the level that we expect to see them when they're trying to make a run for those top 2 spots.
Yeah, but when something it works for Boston, you just keep doing it, right? Like it's very clear that this team relies on Striker and Dream Casper. Just go in there. Gamsu, by the way, dude's a superstar this game, just clearing out and creating so much space for his squad. But I want to learn a little bit more about how that works. So it's time for some insights powered by Intel. There you go. Sideshow, hit me with it, baby.
Okay, so this was the first push that came out of the Houston Outlaws, and so Boston Uprising are on the defense. You can see here, because the time is only 3 minutes 44, they've only had 1 second to look at the enemy composition, other than what they've been able to call out. And this over here is a pre-planned play by Gamsu. You see his positioning over here? This is mental. Why? I don't think I've ever seen this before. It's a Winston holding outside the field of battle on the first push. And so his idea with this is to jump way over the top and land right down here in the middle and start an engagement like this. And my theory is that Gamsu thinks if he is holding somewhere around here, where you would normally see the Winstons defensively hold, then it's too easy to predict where the dive's going to come from. And boy, there's no predicting this one. Because as you roll this one forward, the issue is, I'm just going to pause it again to point out another issue, is that it's Neko and Note that get caught out of position here because they don't have Gamsu to peel for them. So keep your eyes on these guys and watch this dive coming in from Gamsu, because he leaps all the way over the top once the Houston Outlaws have started to get in, gets right onto their supports. Look at this, perfect timing. Again, Gamsu and Striker in. But the problem with what's happening on the point is that these guys are currently getting slammed, because you don't really need your supports in this situation. They're just putting all of the pressure on to Kellex and Note, who die almost instantly, and they're taken out of the fight. And that was your insights powered by Intel.
You should have sang it.
I actually think that a big part of it too was the fact that Houston was running Soldier and McCree. You rarely see that as a start on Eichenwald, and I think that strategy would have actually worked a little bit better had the Pharah not had to deal with 2 hits cans plus a Discord up, because ideally Pharah is on the right-hand side and escorting everybody to an area where the Winston can jump in, and you're trying to herd them into a dive. But when you've got Soldier and McCree on the same side shooting at you, you just have to fully retreat. Everything collapses just from 15 seconds into the game.
Yeah, and I think this is because they thought the Houston Outlaws would either be running Pharah Tracer or the Junkrat. And in either of those situations, I think Gamsu's made a smart play. Or in general, the whole team. This is a setup strategy, right? But because Houston came out with this double hit scan, didn't quite work, and they were able to just put so much focus onto Neko and Note.
Yeah, and what would result out of that ridiculous game, Houston Outlaws were able to edge out the victory with some incredible holds. I mean, honestly, the highlight reel was just ridiculous of those kills, or of those plays from everyone on Houston. And they were able to hold that one inside of the castle. But then we go over to Anubis, and Anubis has kind of just been an interesting discussion point for us here on the desk, because we've been talking a lot about point 2 and how difficult the V point is to capture because of the current compositions that are kind of dominating this map now.
Yeah, we really get to see some cool Overwatch, which is a matter of how well can you adapt on the fly and make those hero swaps accordingly. And it all starts off with Boston initially having a Genji, and against the Junkrat, he swaps away into the Junkrat versus Junkrat. How does Houston respond against their own Junkrat on the enemy team? Well, they swap off to Reaper and the Pharah. It doesn't work out, and then Linkster even swaps off at having the Death Blossom. He gives it up to go back to the Genji to just show how important it is to make the right hero swap on the right point.
And the other thing too is that, we wanted to see switches on Anubis Point B, right? We were talking about in the last game, the NYXL London Spitfire match. We're like, we need to see people just stop trying to commit to one particular composition, switch it out, bring out some different looks, see if you can make something happen. But despite the best effort, Sideshow, that did not happen. Reaper, fail. Farah, fail. Nothing worked.
Well, what they achieved was forcing the switch over to the McCree. So they forced Dreamcasper to go from Junkrat onto McCree. Theoretically, this should be better to push into because Deadeye is nowhere near as deadly as the Riptire.
True.
But they weren't able to force out Neko or Kelex's support ultimates ever in any of these fights. They didn't have... Boston were never scared.
They were not just scared. Neko and Kelex actually didn't die. The entire Anubis set, they just didn't die. 0 deaths.
Wow.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Like, bananas. Okay, well, the other thing, though, you know, kind of the elephant in the room here that we gotta, you know, kind of talk about was the
Jack
final.
has to scrub it
Yeah,
out.
I think I saw Jack in the crowd earlier. So you know, this isn't for you, buddy, but we had a good old-fashioned C9 from the Houston Outlaws.
We did.
Unfortunately,
And
Go ahead.
Houston are normally so great on the defense. This is where they shine. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for them. So here's the illustration. And it is Neko that starts this one off. He gets a ridiculous right-click snipe onto Jake and essentially does the work for them because teams have struggled so much with taking out Jake. And then you'll see that as the rest of the Houston Outlaws go back to try and res him up and defend him, the flank comes in from... So here comes the right-click as well. Neko insta-kill onto Jake. And you see Striker and Dreamcasper both put pressure on the point at the same time as Houston Outlaws have to fall back because Jake's under pressure. And the cap timer at the top, it's ticking, and nobody gets on there. And that is it. The Boston Uprising win. And so this C9 is, again, it's teams being put under pressure, but most importantly, the thing that every team struggles with against Houston is picking Jake easily without committing very many resources. If you get a right-click like that onto him from Neko, what are you supposed to do? That alternate fire just kills him instantly.
Yeah, how are you supposed to plan for that?
Yeah,
you know,
you need that kind of magic to cap it.
Stay on the point.
Okay, Grubs, stay on the point. Easier said than done. These two teams are throwing everything at each other, and you couldn't have asked for a better matchup. Playoff implications, both teams are still alive in this competition. Ilios is coming up next. You don't want to miss it, and we'll see you on the other side for game number 3.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Sour Patch Kids. Sour, sweet, gone.
You know, you have to give it up for both teams. They are scrapping. This is a slugfest. We are all knotted up, 1-1. They're leaving it all on the stage. But at the end of this half, we will have our playoff picture fully painted. So to get us back into the action, let's send it on over to Mr. X and Uber.
Thank you very much, Malik. A maximum of 3 maps remaining. 3 possibilities. 3 teams that could be joining London and New York in the playoffs. Matt, we don't want to have a Zach Galifianakis moment here. Yeah. The match has already been done. It's out there. It's been explained. Right now, we're focused on the game, and I'm quite sure the Houston Outlaws are coming back in with a vengeance after that blooper moment at the end.
Yeah, we do have 1 sub for the Houston Outlaws, so Boink will come in for Bonnie. This is a typical sub that they have for control points.
That's
Boink can play the Lucio.
Now Houston have got the Boink and the Badoink. It's getting serious now as we head over towards Ilios. And again, a map where we've seen very strong performances in, honestly, by both of these two teams, Matt. Do you really give it one way or another?
I think it's going to be pretty even. You know, Linkser on Ruins can do a ton of work as Widowmaker. The other 2 points, you can play, you know, some Pharah. We see a lot of dive. I think it definitely could end up working out in Boston's favor. Now, Eichenwald, we talked about how both teams played each other so close, right, Mitch? Now, there was nothing to kind of look at in terms of stats that really stood out. Game 2, completely different. Gamsu goes 27 elims to 13 final blows, only 5 deaths. You have Muma go with 3 eliminations, 0 final blows, 8 deaths. Big disparity there. And then Note goes 25 elims, 10 final blows, 0 deaths to Cool Matt's 12 elims, 6 final blows, 5 deaths. The tanks on Boston Uprising playing very good in map 2.
Right, bear in mind, of course, you know, the Outlaws were playing less of a dive style composition, so the tanks doing less initiating. However, that's a pretty big difference. But now, wipe the slate clean. We're 1 apiece here. And of course, it'll be Ruins to start things off. And this is where we're going to get the treat. Lynx is going to be out there in that Widowmaker. You know what this guy does? He's going to be swinging that sniper around like Willow Smith's hair. You know what's happening. Will Dream Casper come in with a similar response? We've seen a little bit of Widow from him. It's not really been his go-to, but he's definitely shown that he's relatively proficient.
I mean, he could have played Genji here, right? They could have kind of went all-out assault at Linkser. It's probably what they will go to if the Widow versus Widow battle doesn't work out. Linkser, one of the best counter Widowmaker players we have. You know, in these Widow versus Widow battles, that's really where he shines.
Debris goes flying across. Oh, hello! Okay, Outlaws, time to pony up because Dreamcast bringing his A game.
And he dies out in the open, and Boston gets really aggressive. They're just trying to prevent the res from coming on through. That'll allow Dreamcaster to get it set up in an advantageous position here. That first Widow kill, huge on a map like this. We've seen these fights stall for a very long time.
Makes a difference. Note now realizes he's going to be under scrutiny. He's keeping on his backline here. You know that they're going to try and get aggressive. But Jake's formed the Dreamcast as well. The man, the myth, the legend, he's doing the damage from the backline spat, and the Outlaws are crumbling here in the second attempt.
I love how Boston, when they get these first picks, they push on forward, keep putting pressure on Linkser, forcing him back. He has to be worried about players like, you know, Gamsu and Striker coming after him, and then also staying out of the sightlines of Dreamcast, where it's very difficult to do.
Striker playing very far forward. Using sound cues, he can identify. You can also communicate to Casper if Lynx is going to be up on that side. Lynx has picked off Neko early. Oh no, Striker's found him though! It's a 1-for-1. At the very least, they're missing the Neko. It's going to be both of those players brought back, so it's 6 versus 6. Cormac going to get de-suited here and again. The kills are just going in the favor of the Uprising here. Boink's really being pressured to try and get these resurrects. Again, we have to play Mercy on this particular map. We can't play the Lucio. Ruins is not a good place for him. Cormac down, Jake responding though. Striker now is just going to take his time with this one. Just still with Raucus.
So we've obviously seen a lot of Dreamcasters, you know, final blows, right, pop up in the kill feed. But the damage, Dreamcast were at 1,700 damage, Lynx are only at 900. Just the damage output from Dreamcaster on the Widowmaker, just, you know, obviously getting those final blows, finishing players off, but just dinking those players for Striker to finish off.
Both teams can see each other through walls right now, by the way. Both of the infra sites are active. And Note's now on the point. You can see Primal Rage pop by Moomer, and he's backed away. Note kind of forgot about him for a second, and Moomer flies back in. For whatever reason, though, the Outlaws have decided to pull the plug for the time being, disengage slightly. So that Primal Rage from Moomer doesn't get nearly as much value, but they're back onto the point now. They're contesting. Jake's found a key pulse bomb towards Neko, but he's brought back to life, and Note seems to be the main anti-tank player now. He notices there was a Discord on Moomer for a second. He tried to follow up on that one a little bit more, but Striker's got some freedom to work. So does Linkser, though. The kills are back and forth here, but it's 91% to 0.
Boston does have their own Transcendence. If they want to extend this, Dream Casper with 2, Neko with another. They're going to use the Transcendence. It's only Muma alive here for the Outlaws.
Casper the silent killer, the unfriendly ghost they call him. Huge impact in this round, and that's going to be it. Boston starts strong. And Caster's curse strikes again, of course. Dream Casper delivers on the Widowmaker. 5 final blows, 0 deaths to Lynx's 2 final blows and 3 deaths.
And the damage, I know we talked about it a little bit during the game. So Lynxer catches up towards the end, but it's 1,300 damage to 21 from Dream Casper. You see the shots. The guy can play so many different heroes. It's like time and time again, you're like, oh, well, you know, Lynxer plays a ton of Widowmaker. Oh, is Dreamcaster's Widow up to par? It is. Like, it seems like he is like top level at every hero he brings into play.
It's concerning, isn't it? This guy's kind of like a prodigy. It's insane what happens when you give these guys the environment, like the coaching staff the Boston Uprising have, and just the setup that the Overwatch League has in general. This guy is thriving. He's really thriving. Now the Outlaws need to put a stop to this one, otherwise Boston not only could take the series away, but could also nestle themselves into the playoff stage.
So no Pharah for the Houston Outlaws here. They're going to have Lynxer just go at Dreamcaster up in the sky. You see Dreamcaster just putting down some damage here. It's going to be hard for Lynxer to get any type of like great sightlines, right? Because as soon as he pops out, McCree obviously with not a lot of mobility, Dreamcaster should be able to just put down some damage onto Lynxer, and then some of the tanks. Simply Coolmat, who gets into the backline though, eliminates Neko first.
See, the Boston Uprising kind of collapse upon themselves, and that allows Coolmat and of course Muma to go in and find those first couple of kills. Dream Casper has had a few of his sight lines denied on this map as well. A lot of the Outlaws were just taking cover, and the dive part of the Houston team had pushed the Boston Uprising so far inside the building they couldn't be shot by Casper.
Yeah, Coolmat and Muma dove in deep. Muma drops a bubble towards, the backside of that upper doorway, prevents any damage coming in from Dreamcaster. It'll be Striker who wins a 1v1 against Jake here. Jake not in a reasonable position.
Lynxer misses the crucial first shot, and he's punished for it! Man overboard, they say. Unfortunately, there's no way they're going to bring him back. Environmental kills are not resable. Now on the point, Coolmat thought about looking for Kellex for the time being, but he's being well protected by Note. The defense matrix really playing off well for the Boston Uprising, and Striker's there to follow up the damage. Pulse Bomb available for him now, forces the recall out of Jake, who realizes it's time to head for the hills. And now the Boston have their time in the sun.
Jake just gets a little bit low, and Striker goes in, finishes him off. Was not safe to res him back up. The next kill goes over to the Boston Uprising as well. They're able to take that fight. So now you look for Lynxer potentially when he gets this Deadeye, gets set up on the high ground and connect with Kellex and Dreamcasper. It'll be Primal Rage here, popped by Muma, just knocking players all the way back towards their spawn.
See, Boston are trying to figure out what the Outlaws are trying to do at this stage. It looks like another classic dive, but there's the D-shoot there. The Pulse Bomb was dropped and Coolmat. No. He's going to go down. That's it. Neko's found him, so the Diva's out of the picture. But Dreamcasper's taken a couple glancing hits from Lynxer, enough to force him away, deny the sight lines. The Resurrect comes in, and Coolmat should have a chance to get resuited, and will be a big one if he does. He's back in the mech, but Casper's found Raucus. Striker present on the point of Jake. Oh dear! He gets taken down by Note. Apparently it was the self-destruct. The D-mech kill that actually got him. It was actually Jake getting knocked away, I think, by the resuit animation, because you do get knocked if you're standing on top of an enemy Diva when they resuit. That was what was credited for the kill, but Jake actually, I think, opted to go over the edge there. It wasn't that much of a knockout.
In that fight, when Lynxer, it looks like he actually ended up using his Deadeye, Gamsu knocks him off the side with Primal Rage. So potentially saving Kellex and Dreamcaster, right, if they're up in the sky, because they're playing in the middle of the map, not a ton of cover at all.
Casper with a bit of freedom. Jake has fallen already. Not a good start for the Houston Outlaws in this fight, but there's the damage from Lynxer. Keeping Dream Casper honest, but he's still alive. Unable to put his nemesis in the dirt.
Have to wait again for Jake here to come off the respawn. Raucus will have Transcendence here. Transcendence on the board for the Boston Uprising as well. These pulse bombs from Striker, he just keeps getting right behind Coolmat, so he can't use the defense matrix. Getting him so close out of mech. It'll be Transcendence from both sides.
There it is! That could be the start to the fight that the Uprising are looking for now. It's going to be followed up with the barrage from Dream Casper. Lynxer's already over the edge. No life jackets for that man. Frustration, I'm sure, but Coolmat's going to get desuited now. We're still in overtime. Muma drops down. Bubble dropped in. Discord orb on Jake. He might be over the edge as well. Oh, there it is! 2-1. The Uprising get their nose out in front. Dream Casper again. Some big looks from him over this series, man. It just looked like the Outlaws are still rattled from map 2.
We showed a lot of Dream Casper. We talked a lot about Dream Casper versus Lynxer in that one. Striker, 18 eliminations, 10 final blows, 1 death. Dominating the Tracer battle. And Note, again, back-to-back maps, he does not die. Goes 14-0 on that map, 25-0 on Anubis.
Boston Uprising, the original dark horses, now they choose to shine bright. Potentially one more map left. Let's see how this series winds up.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
So far, it's definitely looking pretty solid here for Houston.
And right now, Boston, it feels like they are very much in control of the situation.
But somehow, Houston are still finding kills. Big kill, and the follow-up pulse. Striker already silent.
But there's a chase from Linkser, gets the kill, just fans the hammer. A stellar time for Houston.
Striker's gotten double his money for that one.
Jake is just wrecking everybody at this point.
Casper is the first man on the trigger.
Whoa, that was close.
And here we are. The pointy end of things in this particular series. It still could go one of three particular ways. The Boston Uprising need to win this next map to qualify. If they don't, it'll be either the Outlaws or the Valiant.
Which would be very interesting. The Valiant don't play today.
They would have to cruising, man.
They're probably sitting somewhere in the back, like they're cheering on. It's like, go Boston, go Houston, go Boston again. It's like they would have to get warmed up pretty quick, you know, going into that 2-3 playoff match, as it'll be Boink, Abani who comes in for Boink here for Houston. So you bring your Mercy back into play. Your Lucio player plays mostly in control, get to the point a little bit faster. The last map we will go into Dorado. So like you said, this is Boston stage 1 on the line here.
And I mean, both teams have had a pretty decent performance on this particular map. And I remember the preseason actually, this pure infant Boston Uprising going up against, I believe it was the London Spitfire or something similar, who they just couldn't figure out how to break through this Widowmaker defense on this map. And they looked like they were struggling, they were running out of ideas, and now these guys run the show. Blizzard Arena, are you awake? Much more to be said and done today. There's no doubt about it.
And Houston needs to come alive. They got to rattle off these next 2 maps. They just need to win in this series. Doesn't matter whether it was, earlier, in terms of a 3-1, a 3-2. They just need a win to secure themselves a playoff spot in stage 1. Boston, they need to win it here. So we'll go into Dorado. It'll be the Boston Uprising on defense. They'll have Gamsu play Orisa. Now Dreamcaster will play Junkrat. They're going to play very close to that choke, able to put down a ton of damage. And then Striker will be playing the Widowmaker here for Boston. So Striker, primarily we see him on Tracer. We've seen him play a little bit of Roadhog and Widowmaker. Not really going to play Junkrat, so that'll be Dreamcaster's responsibility. As you see there, notice not died. Eichenwald, it's insane.
2 maps and no deaths. 83-10. And you're going to hand a lot of this over, of course, to his healers and supports. Kellex just seems to get himself in and out of the most compromising situations in order to keep healing on his teammates.
So they're also going to play triple tank from the Boston Uprising on defense, so much different look. We see Neko play Roadhog when this team plays Junkertown. They like to have him transition over. Now, right off the bat, it'll be Linkser connecting with a shot on the Striker. Kellex will resurrect back up, though.
Can it try again, Striker? Perhaps not. Not often, actually, that we see Striker on the Widowmaker here. It's a different look from the Uprising. Dreamcasper had such a successful Ilios, but they need his Junkrat.
Yeah, they want to play it on... They play Striker or Widowmaker when they want to run Junkrat on some maps. So we see it on Horizon, we see it on Junkertown a lot. We Striker connecting here on the Linkser. That'll get Rez right back up. So now Rez probably available for the Boston Uprising if any of their players fall as well.
Good job by Coolmat there. That defense matrix was very important in keeping Raucus up and alive, but he's lost his mech as a result. Raucus doesn't connect the hook there. It was a fairly standard ball and chain combo.
And you see Raucus now playing Roadhog. It's going to be a solo support for Houston Outlaws as well. We see Houston do this a lot on Junkertown. Raucus can play so many different heroes, right? Not your typical flex support player. We see him on 76, Sombra as well. So see how long they stick with this, though, in a map that decides so much for Houston. How long they stick with this comp.
Well, the idea is that Linkser has the 0 sight lines, technically, with the Orisa shield in the main choke, and then there's a Roadhog on that right-hand side, and Neko's also standing there. So theoretically, he shouldn't be able to get any shots, but he knows he can pick Neko there as he just picks forward of the shield. Oh no, Casper gets caught up by a hook there, but he's able to back away. There's a health back under his feet. He doesn't get the health! He doesn't get the health, but Jake was going to kill him anyway, if I'm not mistaken, with that concussive mine.
They're going to camp the body as well, so Kellex can't go in there and get a free res off. It'll be Neko using the whole hog, just trying to force some players back. So it'll be a hook in from Neko onto Muma, but he'll just put down an Orisa shield, as it'll be Raucus using his own whole hog, pushing players back.
Boston Uprising have to back away to that one. Gamsu gets caught out in the open. Kellex couldn't keep him alive. His only lifeline, the Mercy, struggled, was unable to keep that Orisa up. However, Gamsu is resurrected, gets the second bite of the apple, but Linkser might not have one. No, he's taken down. Striker goes SMG mode to pick him off, but the Riptide is going to respond from Jake. He's looking to get some support. He gets 0. Casper blows up his tire there with a grenade of his own, and now Muma's supercharge has expired. Muma's put himself into a corner. He's backed himself up. Coolmat's going to have to get out as well, or at least try and deal with Striker, who's been a thorn in the side, or in the rear end, to be specific. Striker evading him for the time being. Payload's still moving somehow. Nice flank there from Neko, but he wasn't able to find the kill. Raucus punishes. Lynx is also there.
I was going to say, Houston still has a ton of players on the payload. Node's still alive for the Boston Uprising, trying to keep this going. It'll be the supercharger that comes out from Gamsu. They're able to deal with Linkser, but Houston still has such a big man advantage here as Gamsu just trying to stay alive behind his barrier. He should be dealt with rather quickly. As Dreamcasper will come back here on Genji. They're just trying to extend this a little bit longer, but it will be Houston taking point A.
Perfect stuff there as well. Dreamcasper forced into a reflex before he can even get into the fight there. So nice hook from Raucus making the difference. Neko chased down. Now we're into the second phase of the map. The Outlaws not looking too shabby. Rising a little bit worse for wear after that previous fight. Neko's going to switch off the Roadhog, gives up the whole hog. Not the most high value ultimate, he's not too concerned.
And Raucus will hold on to his whole hog, and he will keep playing Roadhog as you move on throughout this map. Look, if they're going to play this tank-heavy comp, you may as well keep the Roadhog in, right? Because they're not contesting for the high ground in the setup they have.
It also gives them a nice bit of disengage and allows them to whole hog the enemy team and get a new shield to set up so they can essentially sort of stay safe and backtrack a little bit in the fight. Self-destruct in, Jake falls foul of it, and that's going to be knocked down to a headshot from Link's via the courtyard, and now he's going to attract a little bit of attention, unwanted it may be. But the peel was there, Raucus gets involved, and the scrap gun really leaves a mark on the angry monkey. Gamsu's down. Dreamcasper, everyone's looking at Linksa right now. Still, the man is able to survive it.
I mean, Raucus can provide a ton of peel for Linksa, right? When Gamsu dives on in, Roadhog great against Winston. He can deter players like Striker and Dreamcasper coming in with his hook. And he's obviously such a large HP target that you're not going to be able to burst him down rather quickly. It'll be Boston who has their Valkyrie in there, going to have Dragonblade here. Bonnie has his Valkyrie as well, but it'll be Jake who tries to open things up here with a Riptire, or at least buy some time for Houston to advance the payload.
It might be the latter here, and they'll probably be happy with the Neko. Gets it though, catches it out with an orb, but that keeps himself alive. No, Dreamcasper thought about the blade there, but he's cut down by Jake with a concussive fight. Gamsu's brought back into the fight. It looks like the Uprising are going to need him at this stage. Jake, Fusillade coming out from him, a lot of damage being thrown in, and Raucus resurrected into the fight. Jake trying to stay safe right now, but it might be a little bit nasty. Cool Matt finds Neko. Jake's knocked away from most of the action here. The whole hog from Raucus paying off towards the end. It's just note on the payload. He hasn't died much this series, but it's time for that streak to end. I'm sure of it. The Outlaws have got themselves 2 checkpoints, and they ain't done yet.
Houston burns through both of their support. It's going to be the Boston Uprising who burn through both their support ults. Bonnie burns through his. Raucus will go now. Switch off of Roadhog, will go over to Zenyatta, so you're going to have that extra healing plus the Discord in the later portion of this map. Jake does have his Riptire. Feel like Eichenwald though, right? Because Houston was kind of rolling through Eichenwald through the first 2 points, and then Boston put up a fight towards the end. It'll be Jake who takes out Gamsu. You do lose your own Mercy though, as Dreamcasper comes in with his blade.
And that stops him as well with Striker. Did it with Linksa again. Boston Uprising. Surgical precision, eliminating priority targets, removing both the Junkrat and the Widowmaker in a heartbeat. Before Houston realizes that their push was over, but 2 minutes and 22 seconds remain. And we'll see if they want to try and set up a little bit more for a high ground play. They're going to run headfirst into Gamsu here, who's probably just going to jockey back a little bit and give them a bit of space, try and get some damage in there. He does have Primal Rage, which is going to be potentially lethal in strike. For Jake, limited damage put into, he's giving himself away, but Raucus is looking low. He recalls out, but he falls on the Primal. Oh dear, that's not good! It's a bad trap, and he doesn't see it. Walks over the top of it, and things look like they're going south for the Winnie here for the Boston Uprising. Jake being brought back to life, but where are the Resurrects for Boston? They aren't there. This time, the aggression of the Boston Uprising is used against them. And the crowd is feeling it, Matt. The Outlaws are on the way.
Yeah, Muma uses Primal Rage, gets all the way into the back line, opens up an area where Linksa can pick up a kill. Then he takes out Neko. Raucus will have Transcendence. It's a big kill from Jake there on the Killex. You're not going to have Res available. Neko will have Transcendence for the Uprising. You're going to have to use this ult probably a little bit earlier than you would have liked, and there it is.
You should use it now to keep Note alive, but it's a little bit too late. Raucus goes for his own Transcendence, self-destruct thrown in, and Bunny's not able to survive that one. They might have needed the Mercy here for the Resurrect, because Killex is going to be back quite soon. The Uprising are going to have the Mercy advantage, as it were, but Note's taking a beating from the high ground. Jake just raining grenades down. He's got a Riptire as well, should he choose to use it. Still not quite enough damage to get the D-suit on Note. Desperately, Killex is trying to keep him topped up there with the healing. And Jake realizes it might be better to sit back and prepare with the rest of his team for one last dive.
You're going to have Valkyrie here for Killex. Jake needs to be able to locate the Mercy with the Riptire to take those reses out of the equation, because, I mean, right now, if you're Boston, you get a good use of this Valkyrie. You'll be able to stop Houston from advancing. Here comes the Riptire. Let's see what Jake can get with it.
Batter up. Jake's looking to make the difference here, but it's such a low HP tire, but Note deals with it. It's a war of attrition. It takes too much damage as it approaches the lineup of the Boston Uprising. This could be a bit cheeky though, self-destructing over the top, but Boston managed to avoid it. Dreamcasper needs to take 5, get that HP back. You see the attempt there from Linksa to try and continue to pressure and maybe finish off some of those low-health targets, but here it is. Bunny gets taken down. Muma's been removed from the equation, but Jake's here to spring back into the fight. Killex is there and Bunny is not. That's a big difference, but it seems like the Outlaws don't care. They're going to keep cutting Boston down to 2 as they come up, and speaking of a keen edge, Dreamcasper's got 1 to boot. And Linksa's forced into a recall now with only 5 seconds left. They're not going to have him for the last fight here. Where are the Houston Outlaws? A desperate attempt to jump off, but the block is real. Defense. Gamsu heads up on the high ground with a Primal Rage, swatting Muma aside before he can trigger that overtime.
He knows that Muma is using the Primal Rage, jumping over the top, and Gamsu goes and meets him. I believe we got to look in with the Houston comms, so let's take a listen.
Group up on cart, I'm healing cart. Baby. I'm resing you, resing you. No more reses.
I can do Carson. Send trap. Dead.
Jake on cart.
Chase low. I'm dead.
Okay, that's okay.
Win.
Yeah, we win this.
Nice.
Nice.
And there you have it. What an intense game. Again, another map in which the Outlaws just failed to get towards the end. It's got to be frustrating for them now. It does put that extra bit of pressure on them.
Pretty calm from the Houston Outlaws. Didn't seem like a lot of panic there. You know, you heard Bonnie communicating well as the Mercy. You know, uses both of his reses and whatnot. So right now on defense, looks like you'll see Buma playing Orisa. Linkster will play Widowmaker. Looks like we'll see potentially triple tank again from the Boston Uprising. We've seen more looks from Boston in this series than I feel like we've seen in a while, right? They're definitely throwing some new things into the mix because they've been playing pretty much like a standard comp, you know, the entire time. You know, they do primarily love to play that dive, and you do see some variations of it with this team. Seems like they're throwing in some different stuff here today.
The versatility perhaps was the only real, I guess, bit of criticism that could have been leveled at the Boston Uprising in recent times. The fact of the matter is, if you can't force a team to try and do something new, then it's not their fault for staying with the same setup. We'll see what they ultimately opt to go for here. Houston will go for an early, aggressive posture with Linkster up quite close to start with. They can rotate back around and attend to the
They're gonna try and run Bastion here.
That's true.
So potentially we see the pirate ship come out on Dorado. This is usually reserved for Junkertown. Yeah, it's gonna be very difficult. You know, they had this set up at the beginning of the game, but I thought they were going to switch off of it because we have not seen Bastion on the card on Dorado. We usually just see it on Junkertown. Now let's see how Houston deals with this. They have nobody to dive on top of the payload here.
It's going to be difficult 7 for the Outlaws. They did not expect to see the Bastion here. They need to come up with a good response. Raucus, oh no, the hold could come in and really make their life hard. Raucus gets chunked down. Striker's picked off Linkster though, this could be the start. Someone's got behind Nick, but it's just Coolmat. Not really enough to distract his attention away, but he's pulled off the payload. Now a chance to reset. Always taking more damage he can give out though. Good response. The Outlaws keep a cool head. But Striker's dealt with Linkster for the second time running. There's still a bit of fight left in the Uprising. And Banny's down.
Yeah, Dreamcatcher comes on a flank through this right room, and he connects with a hook on a body behind the statue. You'll be able to keep this going, and then more importantly, you'll be able to get Bastion probably sit back up onto the payload.
The Outlaws get cut down. Linkster. Okay. I mean, they're going to have to run well fast to get towards this payload. Perhaps a shield up in front of Neko. Gamsu clearly not expecting too much of a threat, and they've got to give this one up for dead. Yeah. The Outlaws have to admit they cannot fight into this Bastion anymore.
You don't want to keep running at it. It'll be Dreamcatcher on the flank here. Connects with Linkster on a hook. Finishes him off with a nice shot.
Bunny.
Dangerous here.
And this is a dangerous little fight there for Movie to jump into, but no kills after the fact from Casper, just a link to the fall. The Riptide here from Jake coming in, so we'll see what kind of impact that has. No, Striker actually picks that off in midair. Striker's had a very good offensive Widow round so far.
And Neko is actually trying to go up towards that high ground. He was actually underneath Dreamcatcher, and once he sees everybody on that right-hand side, for Houston, he backs out, gets back towards the payload. They've not been able to deal with Dreamcatcher, just running behind them as Roadhog. Just causing a ton of problems. A combination of the Roadhog, the Widowmaker, and the Bastion. You know, Houston really doesn't know who to focus down first.
Hook for Casper. Buma is dealt with. Now the Houston Outlaws are starting to sweat a little bit more. They're losing their pole position. Now Lisa's just going to get pressured down bit by bit. Neko actually gets removed. He's rezzed up. There might be time for that tank configuration for Neko if he can hang up in the heat. Casper has the high ground. Neko's taken down yet again. Jake's been brought back to life. This looks like the Outlaws getting back in control a little bit, but Casper needs to survive through the burst. He gets the health and damage reduction from Take a Breather. Now he can continue to stand on the payload. Neko switches off the Bastion, even though he had ultimate. That's how disciplined these guys are right now. The Boston's definitely lost this fight.
But you've advanced the payload a decent amount if you're the Boston Uprising, right? You still have 3+ minutes on the clock to get to point B. So, you know, the Bastion comp at the beginning of the game does help them out as they advance. Now they will go over their dive. Neko will go off of Bastion, will play Zenyatta. Dreamcatcher will play Genji in this situation, try and get up towards that high ground. Going to have to pressure Linkster out yet again.
Coolmat has to quickly get away. He's kind of on his own there. Luckily he has the mobility. Oh! Heads up! No, it actually gets blown up there. Jake gets very little done with that one. Gamsu actually body blocks the entire tire. Unfortunately, Boston don't really want to necessarily be without their Winston here, but Coolmat gets desuited. Might be something to go on with here. The self-destruct has found Jake. The Lynx is still feeling pretty safe, and there should be a resurrect there. This should be another Houston Outlaws fight. But there's still so much time in the round, man. Boston have still got a lot to work with, except for ultimates.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to build up towards their support ults and towards that Dragon Blade, force some of these support ults out from the side of the Houston Outlaws. They didn't have to use any in that previous fight. They built up Transcendence, they built up Valkyrie. They're going to have Infrasight here with Linkser, so he's going to pop it. Now you're going to know where everybody on the Boston Uprising is. Houston going to gain all that visibility through the walls.
Yep, he's looking straight down. He's trying to find the best egress point into this fight. Casper being down is definitely going to make him feel a lot better about this one. Surprise! Boomer jumping in. Shield drop down. No follow-up, though.
Streamcaster dies in the street by the payloads. Not going to be able to safely get out and res. It's another fight for the Houston Outlaws. They can hold on to their support ults. Jake now building up towards another Rip Tire. See if he can connect with somebody early. Boston starting to mount up some good ultimates out here, Mitch. We talked about it, both support ults and their Dragon Blade. You're going to have them in this fight.
Casper falls back. Again, Movement gives him a bit of a tase. Gamsu jumping over the edge. He was discorded. He took so much damage in midair, and Movement just gives the extra to push it over the edge. Kellex knows he needs that Winston up. Gamsu was brought back to life. A second fight, a second chance, and now a Riptide, a chase note down. Hey, notice the Discord orb there. No way he was going to survive that one. Jake goes down to that one. Despite that, perhaps the Bunny Blaster found the mark. Neko and Striker are on the payload, and Bunny's doing his best now to try and cover over the issues for the Houston Outlaws. Get some players back. Dreamcastle's been face first with a grenade when he tries to jump upon Jake, but he has the Dragon Blade now to follow up with. That's big. Discord orb on Bunny. Nice little throw of the Shuriken to deal with the Mercy, and our Cormat's going to get desuited here. Still no need for the Dragon Blade so far in Boston. They're on the precipice, Matt. The knife's edge here.
And Gamsu used his Primal Rage as Linkser's coming off spawn, seeing if he can get an angle, maybe on the Kellex, and Gamsu Primal Rages him all the way back. Just opening up some space. They've done a great job of knowing where Linkser is and having somebody deal with him right away. Whether it's Dreamcaster, Gamsu, Strike, or pressuring him out, they have not given up free real estate to Linkser. They're going to jump right on to Kellex. They're going to force Transcendence.
Yeah, just to keep Kellex alive, if I'm not mistaken, at this stage. The Uprising, again, they recognize they have some momentum, and they want to keep applying that one. They want to maybe get behind this Dreamcasper Dragon Blade, but he's not going to have a Transcendence to back him up with that already being used. And Kellex being out of the picture now means that no, it has to be the Boston Uprising essentially just leaving this one. I don't think Striker can salvage the fight, even after getting the pick on Jake. And yet Casper's going through it. He still wants to go for the Dragon Blade. Why? There's a Transcendence there. He gets nothing for that one, and the Outlaws just comfortably lean into that Zenyatta ultimate and repel the Uprising.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you just kind of thought Raucus has been holding on to his Transcendence so long, being able to counter these blades pretty well throughout this series, that maybe you just want Transcendence out from the side of Houston. Now, Houston's going to have their Valkyrie. A minute and 40, you can kind of just try and force this fight. If you're Boston, it has to be quick though, right? And then you can actually come back in that next fight, game-winning potential fight, where Houston doesn't have any support ults.
Casper's 12 final blows and 12 deaths. Definitely not playing out of control right now. Outlaws are able to relax a little bit without him just going nuts. However, the payload's still moving. Something's going to give here. We're reaching a critical mass as these two teams start to brush up against one another, and now we're getting very close to 1 minute left. Gamsu being out of the picture early on means that Boston are probably just trying to get some ultimates for this fight. This is the jump rush for the Outlaws. They're starting to feel it, Matt. A bit of confidence now as they put their foot down and dig the heels in.
They didn't get the ult out that they wanted. They wanted to get Bonnie to use his Valkyrie. They're actually going to get a kill onto Neko and Dreamcasper here late. So 50 seconds left. Both support ults will be up for both teams here. Raucus 75%. He'll get it early in this next fight. Dreamcasper should end up with a blade. Linkser makes the change from Widow to McCree. We'll have a Deadeye to zone players out. The payload in a position where he can play really far back and just kill them under the underpass.
33 seconds in the round. Jake keeping himself embedded behind enemy lines, giving Gamsu pause for thought. Definitely causing some concern here for the tank players on the Uprising, but he misses the pulse bomb. He can still find assassination kills though. He'll make his way back into the fight soon. Casper's down, headshot. Lynx has found him with the Peacemaker, and now the Deadeye to zone up, creates space to follow up. Transcendence there. Kellex avoids being struck down by that ultimate, and that's a cheeky little res over the top. Kellex with no respect, that's to Lynx's positioning. And now there's going to be a self-destruct thrown on the payload, but Raucus is down. Jake also falling. Lynx, where are your teammates, son? Where are they? Now they're springing back into action. Raucus is low, and that's forced the Transcendence. That's what Casper was waiting for. But does he have the teammates? He doesn't even have the life force. The flash from Linkser claims Dreamcasper, and that was the Dragon Blade they needed to get themselves out of this situation. And now it may just be impossible. Hopeless perhaps, but the Uprising is still going for it. It doesn't matter though. Linkser stands tall. The Houston Outlaws have made this a 5-map affair. And the Boston Uprising will not be in the playoffs later today.
So we're down to 2 teams for 1 spot. Houston takes game 5, they're in. If Boston takes this game 5, the Valiant will be in your stage 1 playoff.
And that's rough. A tough pill to swallow for the Boston Uprising, one of the most improved teams of this entire season. They'll have one more map left. Their stage 1 run will end there. The Outlaws now have either set themselves up for a berth in the playoffs or have done so for the Los Angeles Valiant. What a great match. What incredible back and forth between these 2 teams, and we've still got one more map to go.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. And by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League.
We knew with Boston having to come into this series and win it either 4-0 or 3-1, it was going to be no easy feat at all. And they failed to do that, Matt. The Houston Outlaws are not going to let them get away with this one. And now the Outlaws put themselves in the position as masters of their own destiny. A win here will propel them into our playoffs.
And Boston was really close to doing it. I mean, you think back to map 1 Eichenwald, they had Valkyrie and Blade there at the end, and Houston was able to hold on and take that map coming into this game 5. I would love to see where the Valiant are right now. See how these guys are reacting. Has to be a roller coaster for these guys watching this series.
Absolutely. And if you're the Outlaws, you'd be saying to yourself, there's no way we're going to let the Valiant get in and play in the playoffs without actually having to do anything today to have to get them there. So I'm sure it's going to get heated here. Then Boston Uprising probably would love nothing more than to play spoiler to this little plan.
Yeah, if you're Boston, you know, if I can't get in, you can't get in either. You take out Houston here, and you send the Valiant to the playoffs. No subs on either team, so we don't know. We sometimes for Lijiang Tower for Boston, we see Kalios come in because he's a very good Zarya player in the off-tank position. Notes had such a great series that you leave him in. And then they will leave Bonnie in, so Boink does not come in to play the Lucio here on Lijiang.
This series has had everything from start to finish. We've had unkillable divas, we've had insane cowboys in the form of Lynx, we've had widow battles, and now it all comes down to this final map. Lijiang Tower, ladies and gentlemen. Will the Outlaws make it into the playoffs, or will the road be paved for the Valiant to take on the final bosses?
I'm sure there's a lot of people in the crowd. I feel like the crowd would have to be split, right? Now that Boston's out, it's like, oh, well, there's a lot of Houston fans, but it's the hometown team, the Valiant, sitting in the dugout waiting to play. Crowd's got to be torn what they want to see here in a Game 5. But nonetheless, this series has definitely delivered. Both of our first two series have been great. As Boston looks like they'll go with their dive. Kellex, playing Lucio here. Potentially will switch off. So Muma will play Reinhardt. Coolmat will play Zarya. You know, this is a point where we see a ton of Junkrat play. Maybe they think the Uprising is going to run that Junkrat. They could have farmed a lot of damage with this Zarya, but now the dive's on the table for the Boston Uprising. It's interesting how Houston's going to play around this.
It's going to be a little bit awkward for Coolmat to try and get decent value. You notice here that it's sitting on about 30 energy, which is not terrible. A player like him's always going to find a way to charge that one up regardless, so he's happy right now. Striker, gets charged into the wall casually. That never really happens. That's pretty filthy.
I mean, the one thing about playing Coolmat on Zarya here is that you can take advantage of Note getting extremely aggressive if you get charged up. See, they're going to push right to the choke. You get Jake behind this shield that Muma will be able to provide. Linkser as well. Just a ton of burst opportunity with these two heroes.
Jake looking extremely focused currently. Striker snuck onto the point. What are you going to do about it? Okay. It's a bit of a tease for the time being. Dempsey was quite low on HP anyway, so Boston weren't in a position to engage if they tried to peel back to the point. He's back on the point again though, and Jake just gets blown up. Note just gets straight in his face. Linkser also not realizing that Note was off towards the side. This guy's doing so much damage. I'll tell you what they're doing. They're riding the players of Houston Outlaws on the mech itself, and they call him Death Note. That's how it's working out, because they just seem to fall. It seems to be a certainty. Coolmat's not far behind. Oh, Striker! That melee was intended for Coolmat, but he found Vanny with it and got the kill. That's a nice little slick play.
Boston did use their Valkyrie to get onto the point, take it back. Houston had built up 41%. They have Muma, who's going to have his Earth Shatter. We'll see how they play around this. Linkser takes out Striker. He gets a little bit too deep, and Jake will use the Riptire as Houston will use the Riptire to buy them some space to walk onto the point.
Oh, this could be dangerous times for Neko here as well. He knows his number is up. Kellex, though, can resurrect him, but it'll take a long time before Kellex actually gets to the fight. So he reses Neko, but they've already lost so many players. Dreamcast for Gamsu crucially went down when there were no healers at all, because Kellex had to go inside and heal Neko back up.
And when Striker dies at the beginning, that allows Houston to just use their Riptire and hold on to everything else. They never even had to use some ultimates to force out, whether it be Transcendence from the side of the Boston Uprising. Striker still gets on the point behind here. Just trying to draw players back. Coolmat lurking in the shadows with this grab.
It needs to deal with the D.Va first. Now I think Note knows exactly what Coolmat was planning, and he punishes. Graviton Surge is there though. Coolmat goes for it. He actually kills Striker with the Graviton itself, and Coolmat's brought back up to life. Dreamcasper and Striker are both missing, and that's going to be Boston to pull out. So despite getting jumped upon, Coolmat lets rip anyway. He knew that Note wasn't in a position to eat the grab because he had gone in the opposite direction.
Deadeye, Valkyrie, Earthshatter, grab, all used by Houston in that fight. Boston will be able to come back here. Oh, I was good.
That's not good.
Pick yet again.
They can't raise him.
Linkser, they can't get him either. It's going to be 99%. They're forced to go in.
Gamsu's on the point. Raucus is low with the flashbang. Stops Gamsu when he's tracks. He heads up on high. Gets a bit of healing, but he doesn't make it to the safe ground. Linkser deals with him. You may have the high ground, Luke, but it's not going to be enough when there's a peacekeeper looking for you. Note knocked up, resuited. Chance of Gamsu to get to the back line, but once again he's stunned as soon as he hits the ground. Linkser has been preventing him from doing anything after he gets up in the air. Once again Gamsu wants it more. He deals with Muma, but Linkser responds. Backing away, conservative approach here for the Outlaws. They know they need to just be patient.
Thank you, Ken.
And Boston is fortunate to come out on top in that one. You know, Linkzor is getting pressured by Dreamcaster with his Dragon Blade. Jake takes him out with the Riptire. Boston on the point. They use self-destruct to just force some players off. It's only going to be one fight that Houston needs, and they have a grab that should be able to get it done.
Jake down already, that's a good start, but Banny's going to erase over that little error, and that's it! Cool man, 100 energy, Graviton serve, all the things you want in a world-class Zarya player, and he has delivered. He's come up with the goods here, and the Houston Outlaws have got a big smile on their face. They are one round away from the playoffs.
It's a really good grab there from Coolman, able to connect with few players, gets 100 charge, able to just mow through them. You know, once that Zarya gets charged up, there's really not a lot you can do to deal with it. You know, his average energy for that first point was 44. That's pretty high for his Zarya.
Exceedingly high.
Yes.
And then 100 energy when it really counted, Matt. When that Graviton came down, he added so much damage to the stack because he'd been cleverly charging himself up the entire time. Impressive. Dreamcasper having a quieter round, as did Striker. Neither Boston Uprising DPS was really able to get in. I mean, that composition with the Zarya and the Reinhardt, if you lose control of the point, it can be really hard to regain. This map's a different story, though. This is where Farah thrives, and Casper now has to get his team back in this match.
Both teams will have a Lucio at the beginning, just give themselves a little bit of speed, and switch off to the Mercies. And it's going to be Jake versus Dreamcaster in a battle of the Pharos up in the sky. It'll be Dreamcaster who takes out Linkzor on the ground here. It's a good first pick. Bonnie will have to go down to rest.
Forcing at least the resurrect from Bonnie now, putting him in a bit of a compromising situation because the Boston Uprising tanks are using this as an opportunity to leap upon those weaker targets. Kellex trying to avoid the rockets here, but that's Jake getting up close and personal. There was no chance that Kellex would get away from that. 4 players up for the Boston Uprising though, and Bunny just gets completely crushed by Note in midair. Gets himself up in that Meg, and Linkzor needs to go for a different angle of attack. He's forced away, moving out very low. Note doing a heck of a lot of work here, and Linkzor is down to Striker.
Point will go to Boston at the beginning. Note picks up 3 kills. Earns himself a self-destruct. He's able to pick up a support. Then he takes out Bonnie up in the sky. And helping finishing off players on the point. There you look on the top of your screen. Note with the self-destruct, the only ultimate up right now. Just how does Houston get back towards the point? Looks like they're going to send Linkzor in there with the tanks, and then Jake's going to try and come over from that bridge side and do some damage.
A good bait from Striker. He gets the D-suit on Coolman. That's going to be so important in this fight, especially when there are some key ultimates in play, and the barrage from Casper might be unhindered by the defense matrix. That's important. Linkzor drops down now as time as well to let the poppers fly. It was actually Jake, though, using the barrage on the point. Went down to Dreamcasper, but as a parting gift, he removes Note from the picture. However, it's not enough to unsync the Boston Uprising. Gets struck and springs forward, living up to his name. And the melee giving him the damage to get across the line and remove the Mercy.
He is so aggressive on points like the previous one. It ends up hurting them when he gets picked first early in the fights, but able to take out Bonnie there towards the end. Usually the aggression pays off as Linkzor will go over to Widowmaker now, and Jake will play Tracer, so a little bit of a change-up. Striker takes out Jake before the next fight even happens.
No mess in here for Boston. Linkzor cops a shot now, and he realizes there's an airborne threat, and Casper is not going to let him get away with that one. The audacity to bring in the Widowmaker here, and Casper's having none of it.
I mean, just clearly they were not able to get anything going in the Pharah versus Pharah battle. They have to make the change now. Linkzor will have to change yet again. He'll play McCree to try and deal with Striker.
Outlaws are on the back foot. They're desperately looking for answers. Haven't come up with any. What a clever play. Numa ensured that he at least takes Striker with him. And Numa's the one that gets resurrected up. It's a 5-man roster for the Boston Uprising, and Kellex hasn't been able to find the Tracer. They're without a DPS. What a clever play from Numa now to put his team in pole position. But Casper's sneaking. He's creeping. He's found himself the barrage kill, but it's just going to be one. He gets cut there by Coolman here, and Echo falls to Numa. Notes over on the point. The Uprising are down to 4 players as Kellex finally returns to the fight. Transcendence in here from Raucus, but Raucus himself is quite low. He's trying to escape, but Note is there. He's not going to let him get away with this one. Batty falls. Jake finds Kellex there, and Note now on the point. Self-destruct. A chance to resuit. He gets back in the mech, but it's just Note against the world. What's to be done here? He wants to chase down Numa. He's low. The defense matrix from Coolman is going to keep the Winston alive. The teamwork in a crucial moment coming out from the Outlaws. How important is that? But Boston still have control of the point. That could be the problem here, but Coolman's back. Linkzor is also here now on that McCree. Casper gets headshot into next Tuesday. And now this might be an opportunity because Mercy's not getting anywhere near the point. Linkzor's done with that nonsense.
Striker gets on, he'll just contest here for Boston for a little bit. Then he'll back on out. As Houston flips the point back in their favor. Boston just needs one fight here, Mitch. Dreamcasper goes away from Farah. We will play Genji here. They're going to get aggressive. No support ults on the side of Houston. Lynx are getting close to Deadeye. A lot of open space here. He can connect with a few players. I'm interested to see who Boston puts that primary focus on when the dive comes in. Is it Lynxer or is it one of these supports?
Lynxer taking a couple of those shurikens, and it looks like there's going to be follow-up. Gamsu is stunned. He can't quite get to Lynxer. But Raucus is in the way. Note does get desuited in the meantime, but he was able to find Raucus. The Zenyatta is now missing. Jake's found Neko, the good response, but Lynxer can't hang around for too long. Gamsu's just getting too close and personal with that one. Callback goes for the self-destruct, but in the meantime, Raucus gets squashed by Gamsu, who's now found his third kill of the fight, and he's looking for more. Moom's responded, though. The Winstons are getting involved in this one. It's a scrap fest. Two divas up on the point. Only one can survive, but Jake's also going to be helping out. Not much of a gentleman's duel anymore.
Kelix gets a res on the bridge to Dreamcasper, who has his Dragon Blade. It'll be Note using the self-destruct.
Kelix is down. He's missing now, though. Note still standing on the point. Jake's being healed at the moment by Banny. Going to try and pressure back in here, and Note's going to get desuited. Going to have to back away, and Numa bursts him straight on down. The Outlaws are holding on. They're holding strong. Going to take more than that to get the job done, though, when Casper knows it's time to sleep with the hollow fishes. One more fight, given how long they've been so far. That's what Boston have.
They have Pulse Bomb, and they have Dragon Blade. Dreamcasper built up that blade so fast. You know, just switches over to Genji in that previous fight. Builds up all the way back towards it. Raucus with the Transcendence could be the key factor here. Jake with a Pulse Bomb. It gets eaten up by Note.
No pulse for Jake, and he needs to back away. He's already used that recall. Now, that was the only way he was going to be able to get out. An early recall forced, put him in harm's way, and he couldn't escape. And that's the reflect style points for Dreamcasper. Sending the Deadeye back towards Lynxer. And now Raucus to fall. Looks like this is it for the Boston Uprising. They're looking good. Dragon Blade out for cool, Matt. Doesn't matter how cool you are, unfortunately, the heat going to get to him eventually. Vanny drops. No mercy now available on the point for the Houston Outlaws, and the Boston Uprising are not letting this one go down without a fight. Two players. Lynx is in, though. Actually lands a rocket punch on towards Striker, who's instantly brought back, and now Jake is missing. Dreamcasper are commanding view of the situation. Lynxer eventually falls, forced to succumb by the pressure now the Boston Uprising are putting on them. Raucus gets caught out. Timeout is done! We got ourselves all 3 rounds here.
One round on Lijiang Tower to decide it all. Houston's playoff chances in stage 1 come down to 1 round. Same with the Valiant. Who would have ever thought LA would be cheering on Boston, but their chances stand with the Boston Uprising here. If the Boston Uprising were to take this point on Lijiang Tower, both of these teams are out. You would have the Valiant securing a spot in stage 1 playoff.
Spending all season being underestimated by pundits, fans, analyst desks, casters alike, the Boston Uprising now are in a position to deny the Outlaws entry to the playoffs here in this first stage. And I don't blame them for taking it.
So Dreamcasper will play Farah, Jake will play 76, so Lynxer will play Tracer. So what they tried to do with the Farah before was Lynxer play McCree, Jake play the Tracer. This time they have Jake play 76. Gets really low early. He's forced to use that biotic field, also getting the pocket here from Bonnie, and they want to put pressure on Jake right away. They take him out, and these supports are in trouble.
It looked like for a second Bonnie was attempting to get a resurrect. He stood still, but he gets taken down, and Casper's had so much room to breathe despite the presence of a 76. He's had it all to himself. Actually blows himself up with some residual rocket damage, but it's fine. Otherwise, a clean fight for the Boston Uprising.
There was no fear there from Boston. They saw Jake out in the open. He's trying to get some shots up onto Dreamcasper. Bonnie's playing right next to him, just trying to heal him up. You see from the top-down view that Bonnie just providing the healing to Jake, and they're just jumping right on him.
Notice 34 eliminations for 6 deaths, but he also has the 2nd highest final blows on his whole team as Diva. He's been killing 13 final blows to Striker's 16. It's been huge from this man. This guy's been controlling the game so well. And this is why Kelix gets so much done. He's out there protecting him. There's another one. Fortunately, though, it looks like the Outlaws, at least fortunately for Boston, they're going to struggle to hold on to the point any longer. The Outlaws can see it. They can see that playoff berth looking at them in the face. And they're going to put everything they have into taking it for themselves.
I wonder how long Dreamcasper stays on Farah here. It's interesting, when we saw Boston play this map last in a Game 5, they decided to go triple tank, and they played, I believe it was Gamsu playing Reinhardt, you had Note play Diva, and you had Dreamcaster play the Roadhog here to just kind of barrel onto the point. I wonder if we see that come out at any point.
He had an excellent record in that game, Dreamcaster. I think about 85% hook accuracy. Really, really nice stuff. Jake gets jumped on again, but he has the speed to get away. Now he's going to come back in with a tactical visor and start to punish the Uprising here. However, Gamsu's not having it. Primal Rage forcing Jake out of the picture here, and the Outlaws only have 4 players on the point right now. They've had 2 of them that have been segmented off by that Primal Rage from Gamsu, and Casper now has a bit more freedom, a bit more leisure here to throw rockets into the mix.
But they did use both support ults. Bonnie now will have his res a little bit later in the fight as he comes in, brings Linkser back up.
Big pulse bomb though, Movement dropped down, Striker found him, man. Bonnie desperately trying to keep his teammates up, and he does get the resurrect on the Winston, but there might be not enough support here. Oh, the barrage coming in, Muma just melts under the pressure. Dream Casper going absolutely tropical on him there, but Jake and Barney are still alive, and they're still a factor. Jake's going to set up now, time for the hero play. Coolmat's also there. This point still remains under control of the Houston Outlaws. This will be crushing for the Boston Uprising to lose this fight. Give him the Tetley, mate.
Somehow Bonnie able to stay alive throughout that entire fight. They're trying to get Raucus out. Gamsu's on Raucus for a while. Bonnie and Valkyrie just healing him up. Then the Rocket Barrage comes in. Bonnie comes in and kills Dreamcaster in the sky. Huge plays from Bonnie. Play a Mercy here.
This is it. Raucus the Transcendence is going to be potentially the ultimate that tilts this map over the edge for the Outlaws. Jake, tactical visor. Who's he looking for though? Ooh, Striker was harassing him, and he does pull that ultimate. Perhaps the heat of the situation just forcing Jake's hand. He's used an ultimate for essentially nothing.
I think he thought the push was coming through the middle, but they actually took the backside and went to the point.
Casper's melted though. This could suck. It might be tough for Kellick's now to come back in with the resurrect, but he's there. He does at least get that Valkyrie, and Casper's back up on his feet. Gamsu's there. Striker pulse bomb on towards Movement now. Coolmat trying to hold things together. He's the glue here for the Houston Outlaws, and that Transcendence from Raucus was so important, but it didn't last long enough to keep the Outlaws alive for all the damage they were taking. Coolmat desuited, taken down in fact. We're in overtime, but Boston have taken the map back, and we ain't done yet. Far from over, in fact.
Boston holds on to their own Transcendence, so the next fight will be huge for Houston. You have your Valkyrie, but Dreamcaster with this blade, it's so dangerous. He takes out Bonnie during the Valkyrie. You see Raucus use the Transcendence in the previous fight. And at that time, Boston's probably building up to 70% about on the point. It would be a lot of trouble for Houston.
Oh, I love that attempt there from Muma to follow up on the damage that actually done to Dreamcaster, but he gets the healing, so Muma has to be careful. He gets out though, the Primal Rage was well employed to keep himself alive despite how riskily he was playing, and he found Neko, an opening. This might be it. Kelix is down, they've got no mercy here, and the Outlaws are merciless themselves. Casper fervently just trying to swat enemies away with the Dragon Blade, but he's lost his healers. He needs to rely on those health packs right now, and I don't think that's going to be enough. It's about staying alive right now for Dreamcasper, staying awake and staying up on that payload. But guess what? The health pack, should I say, is going to be the Outlaws. It's in overtime. The Houston Outlaws have done it. Surely they've got the point. It's over. No, the Boston Uprising keep it up. Kellex just dips a toe on towards the point to try and keep it in stasis, but he eventually is going to go down. Striker found Coolmat and his mech just earlier on, and Casper wants to get in. Dorkchan in his face. Now Striker, who's next? It's Gamsu stepping up to the plate, one by one, but it's just the trickle. Gamsu so low. Note has control of the point now. It's time for the tactical visor. He's trying to force Jake away, and that's going to be Neko going down. Note to fall. Raucus found him, and the Houston Outlaws have done it. What a match! What a series! What intensity and grit!
Jake comes alive here in Game 5, Mitch. 40 limbs, 18 final blows. That was playing Tracer, Farah, 76. Very good game, and then you saw Boston's tanks, still with another great performance, man. This series, so close, back and forth. What an incredible Game 5.
Boston Uprising in this series at 6-4. They started off rough in the season. Their first opponent was New York, but they recovered from then. They won against London, Dallas, the Gladiators, the Valiant, and finally the Philadelphia Fusion. A 5-win streak, but it is all about the Houston Outlaws now. And they get a very brief, short break before they have to come back and face the music. Their opponents waiting for them, the London Spitfire, in the playoffs.
Now, Boston had a very good stage one, not able to get the win here today. They were so close to punching their ticket to the stage one playoffs. But it'll be Houston advancing to that playoff game, and we got Zoe on the floor with Muma.
We do indeed. The Houston Outlaws made it! They are in the playoffs. What a clutch game. You just told me something. Can you repeat it for the audience?
I legitimately think that was the best series of my life.
There we go. There you have it. Now, up until today, you guys didn't know who you would potentially be facing off against in the playoff semifinals. How did you prepare for the unknown?
It was a lot of, I mean, we already had a lot of preparation for the Spitfire because we just had a game with them. And then New York, I think they're our biggest rival, honestly. So we've been just like prepping for them all like season. Even like when we don't have matches against them, we're still kind of watching them. So it's just a mix of that.
All right. Now, you just probably also saw London going up against NYXL. They had a very tight series going all the way to map number 5. It didn't really look like they're holding back strats. Was there any insight your team actually got from watching that game?
I definitely think so, yeah. These playoffs it's different because everyone's only had one match a day to this point, and this is the first time that like we have the potential to be playing 3 series. Like we just had to play Boston, we have to play Spitfire. If we win that, we have to play New York, and that's like the first time this has happened. So us being able to watch that Spitfire and New York game, I think really helps us because the matches are so close together. There's not really a lot of time for them to like change strats. So we knew they weren't holding anything back. So I think we're ready for that.
All right, and we're ready to watch that match. We're going to see you and your team again in those playoffs. Congratulations to you and the guys. We're now breaking down the action at the desk with Golden Boy.
Oh boy, they didn't believe us. They didn't believe us when we told them that it was going to be ridiculous, and it was. To Game 5 we went, and the Houston Outlaws have managed to clutch up when it matters most, and they are punching their ticket to the playoffs. They're going to look to keep that dream alive of winning each and every stage, but the road is going to be very long and very difficult, considering that they're going to have to go through the London Spitfire and then the New York XL. It's not going to get easy for them at all. Welcome, everyone. I'm Golden Boy. We got Sideshow and Crumbs, and man.
Are you tired? You tired after that one?
I'm not playing, you know, but I'm glad I'm wearing my nice comfy sweater because I needed to be comfortable, you know. it was just so much. Yeah. All right, well, let's just jump right into the breakdown here. Ilios, to kick it off. We came back from the break and we got Dream Casper on Widowmaker taking some faces. He was just putting on a show.
You normally think of Lixer as the Widowmaker across the 12 players here, but really, it was Dreamcasper coming out with all the big performances, and Striker as well. This team is so good on control. We even saw it in the preseason, back before Boston had really solidified their teamwork. They are always able to put it together on control, and it happens to be a bit of a weak spot for Houston Outlaws. It's fantastic for Houston. They managed to pull it back, but Boston looked so good here.
They really did, and I think that Note and Kelix stood out for me as incredible pillars for this team because, as we saw before, they didn't die on Temple of Anubis at all. Yep. And once again, on all of Ilios, they only died one time. Kelix only died one time. In 2 games, 1 death between 2 players. Like, how is that not a ridiculous feat?
Yeah, and I think that part of the reason for that as well, that we were looking as this game went on, when Jake isn't allowed to play the Junkrat because it doesn't fit the style of the map, he moves over to the Tracer, and Striker was destroying him in that Tracer v Tracer matchup. Striker is insane. So I think Jake, when he looks towards playing in the playoffs as well, that's something that they have to look out for. If he's not able to play the Junkrat, how do they give him the advantage in that Tracer v Tracer matchup that defines so much about the match?
And also just a side note about Note. You know, a little behind the scenes in Intel, we were going to give him that player of the match potentially because of how he managed to stay alive and because he was a pillar for this team. But then we go over to Dorado, and this started to get a little weird because we typically would see the pirate ship in, you know, in Junkertown. This time around, they wanted to take the Junker. They want to take the Junkertown to Dorado. Look at that.
Apparently they sailed the pirate ship over to the seas of Dorado.
Someone must be so happy.
Docked it, and in it came. We never really see these kind of compositions that you've got on your screen right now with the solo heal coming out from the Houston Outlaws, and Boston were running it at the beginning of their defense as well, and it's working effectively, I think.
Yeah, actually, I think it comes out because you see how far Houston pushed, and you figure, you know what, if we can just snowball off some momentum here, if we can get the pirate ship going, it should propel us past the first point, and we can easily beat the time of the Outlaws. However, that really just was not the case, as the defense held through, and you have some individual plays going for the Boston Uprising, but these plays aren't really leading to a lot of actual teamwork and pushing the payload, so they might have gotten a bit too carried away in those moments in Dorado.
Yeah, I think it came down to point C, really. Throughout the point A and point B, Jake was getting a lot of pressure on him, and that forced the rest of his tanks and supports to really focus on helping Jake. And then we didn't see too much out of Moomer and Coolmat. They were establishing presence really well at the beginning of the fights, but then they were kind of getting picked off a little bit, and Boston had it rolling. As soon as they were able to establish themselves on point C, though, they were winning that fight 9 times out of 10. I think Moomer and Coolmat had a great game, as particularly later on into the series, they were really going toe-to-toe with Houston.
And a credit to Boston for recognizing that the tank game of Houston is so strong that they were just like, we need to send everything we have.
Yeah.
Every single bullet, every single, orbit ball or lightning bolt or whatever you freaking can send them, send it over to the tanks because they were handling business there. One thing, though, we do got to emphasize, and Saisho, I want you to break this down for us. It's not a knock on Jake by any means whatsoever. He was pressured so much in that game, and furthermore, he wasn't able to get his tires or at least have his tires deliver the impact that they usually do, especially in that game against London.
Yeah, normally we see Jake come out with these huge 2K, 3K tires that change the entire pace of the game. And look at the focus fire every time coming out from Boston here. They know that Jake's going to be shooting his tire out there, and the health of those tires just gets eviscerated. And so I definitely think this is something that Boston have done particularly to counter-strat the Houston Outlaws.
Yep.
They know that Jake's going to have that ridiculous impact on the Junkrat, and looking forward to the playoffs, this is the kind of stuff that Moomer was talking about. They got to look at NYXL play against London. NYXL and London have both had an opportunity now to look at this game and think a little bit about how do we shut Jake down? How do we shut down Jake's tires? So I think that's what Houston and Jake in particular have to be conscious of going into the playoffs.
I don't think it's just Jake, though. I think Junkrat in general, you can just go into custom games and practice shooting against Junkrat tires as a way of dealing with it instead of just switching over to Faraz or your answer, which isn't viable every time. You might as well just have everybody on your team go through the motions of taking out tires as much as possible, try to get used to those audio cues, and now you have everybody on board to try to counter this hero that seems to be everywhere.
A lot of knowledge gained from this game, especially if you are NYXL and the London Spitfire getting ready for the playoffs. But we weren't done yet, no siree, because we had to take a trip to Lijiang Tower, and we thought that, I tweeted this before, maybe Boston just says, you know what, if we can't make it, you can't make it either. We'll give that ticket to the Valiant. We'll let them go to the playoffs. Houston, they had other plans.
They really did, and starting out here, they have the opportunity to run the tanks, which they really favor. Coolmat had a great game on Zarya. Moomer gets to run over to the Reinhardt, and this control center is so good for that kind of play.
And once you get it established, too, you have the Ryan and the Zarya already holding your choke. The dive composition, if you're not switching, that's a crack back.
Very dramatic. Yeah, but then Boston Uprising, because the other two stages are very different and more lend themselves towards dive, I thought we would see a comeback here. I thought they were going to punch the ticket for LA Valiant into the playoffs. And it was insanely close coming down on this final stage. Boston, they set up really well, but Houston always able to find their way back in. And I think, again, this comes down to Moomer and Coolmat able to establish position, always able to engage really well. This duo is fantastic, and obviously they have the stars behind them as well.
Yeah, I was actually taking a look at the venue, and we have a lot of Valiant fans in the house. There's actually one gentleman who's sitting right over there that was in his Valiant jersey, and he was so sad. I saw your face, the look of disappointment. It's okay, though, because there'll always be another stage, my friend. Stage 2, that's right, baby. But it has been wild, and I am just floored with the level of play that we have seen from all the players. But we do have to pick a player of the match, sponsored by Omen, by HP, and that player is going to be Linkser.
Yes, Linkser had an amazing game right from the beginning. We described him as the X factor for the Houston Outlaws, and I think he had a hell of a game here. Particularly when we looked at Eichenwald and they were pushing forwards, and he had this crazy game on McCree. He carries them through certain fights that they probably should win.
I mean, if death is your X factor, he definitely was that, because he just kept bringing the pain to Boston, and they were trying to focus him out, and he actually got the best of Striker in a lot of times, but it was a back and forth match, and ultimately him being able to be such a diligent threat when Jake has been targeted out makes a huge difference for this team.
Being able to have a player that could pick up that slack is just you know, invaluable, honestly. And Linkser, time and time again, has proven to be that player. And that's why he is our player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP. There you go. Look at that. Earned it. But now we got to talk about the playoffs and how this is all going to shape out, because we have our final three. It's going to be at 6 o'clock, the London Spitfire taking on the Houston Outlaws. And the winner of that game will face off against the New York Excelsior. So many storylines and things in the middle of that. It's just crazy.
It is. And because I'm the only person that's staying on the desk, I'm going to take over the role of host and ask you guys what you think the predictions are.
Boo.
What?
Because you're not going to get a chance, you know, when the playoffs come around to describe how you think it's going to go. Golden Boy, do you think the Houston Outlaws can take it?
Oh, dear.
Are they going all the way?
You know what? I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So because of that, I got to go with the NYXL. There's no other reason. There's no... okay, jokes aside, though, I do think the NYXL are just one of the strongest teams, if not the strongest team. They've proven it here today. They adjust very well. We thought that they were just going to sit there and just take the dive and be, you know, very defensive, but they proved that they can be aggressive. They proved that they can adjust when they need to. And the NYXL are very, very scary. So that will be my pick for the entirety of Stage 1.
I mean, I think that Houston can certainly go all the way. However, all three teams can really do that, and when we have such a close competition, it's about the history that's gone down, what's been recently happening, and obviously Houston bested London in a 3-1 victory yesterday, or 2 days ago rather, whenever it was. It happened. It happened soon.
Days ago.
With that being said, London is aching for revenge, right? They knew what they get to try two things against the same Houston Outlaws, and I do think that gives them an advantage that is making me think that Houston Outlaws is going to struggle a lot more against London today. And with that being said, New York will take over London, and New York wins again.
I will say this, though. Based on Overwatch World Cup, the Americans know how to play tournament formats. So that is also something to bear in mind. There's just so much to really, you know, just dive into and digest with this. But needless to say, this has been some incredible Overwatch. And I think everyone in this arena were just like on their feet, going nuts the entire game. You guys are amazing, by the way. First time here, baby, and I'm loving it. But we're not done yet with the regular season. One more match, and trust me, it matters, because every single win and loss matters for the final. So, and that's coming all the way at the end of the season. And next, it's going to be the Florida Mayhem taking on the Philadelphia Fusion for our final matchup of Stage 1's regular season. We're going to analyze that and so much more after this.